folks, we are live. Welcome to the Talking Crit live stream. I know we're late. But your choice was have us be late
My fault.
and have a clear picture of my once a week work spouse, Bad Mike Battalato, right now below me where he belongs. But Mike looked like he was the creature from the Black Lagoon being seen through fog. It
It was
was,
it was very foggy. It was very foggy in Texas, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't see. Yeah, yeah, it was terrible. It was weird. I had to reboot and it had some. I can't understand technology. It's weird to think that I can't understand technology at this point.
No, technology, no, you know.
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
us today is Greg Christopher, otherwise known as the Chubby Funster,
Hello.
and we
And
are
look,
going.
his camera
Yeah,
doesn't even work. His camera doesn't work
yeah,
at all.
no,
I
no.
mean, I
He
don't,
have the him and Joe have the same camera. I didn't tell you this.
Oh, that explains everything. They have this. They're so shy. Him and Joe are so shy. They're such shy little girls. They just, I don't want to be seen.
I don't want to
My hair looks terrible today. I can't.
All right, by the way, the hair looking terrible. I'm going to make a true confession. Mike, do you know when the last time I got my hair cut was?
Oh God, it's been 3 years because your
No,
hair is looking.
no,
Oh,
no,
no, I'm sorry.
no. But it was literally the day before last year's North Texas.
Oh my God, dude!
Wow. Man, you
Wow.
you need to work on that, bud.
And I
Crazy.
still can't put it into one of those ponytails. Even my niece said that. She's like, "Uncle, just give it up.
Oh
You,
boy.
you can't do it. You
Yeah,
can't do it."
Oh yeah, she's right on that one. Give that one up totally.
So
But
Jen
we have
wanted to know. By the way,
Greg, huh?
if we yes, the most organized man has tech
Yes,
issues,
of course you do.
and she wanted to know if we were doing drawings today. There might be drawings.
Oh, by the
There
way,
might.
so I'm back to my whiskey on Wednesday night. We have a Balcones Baby Blue, which is one of my favorites. Low, it's only about a $40 bottle. One of my favorite little Texas whiskeys. So
Yes.
I've been whiskey-less the last couple of weeks. I've noticed, I'm just not on my game. When
So
I'm
you're
not
telling me
loaded,
that you're
I'm
telling me
not on my
that
game.
Greg drove you to give up sobriety. That's what you're
Pretty
telling me.
much. I knew I would need the booze tonight.
All right. Well,
I knew I'd need booze tonight because Greg's on here. And so for those of you that watch or listen to Saturday night's show, Greg is a regular there. And
Friday.
oh, Friday, yeah, Friday.
Well,
The
you've been
whiskey's
drinking ahead of
whiskey's already
time,
hit
haven't
me.
you?
It's already hitting me. The whiskey's already hitting me hard. I should have done those 4 shots earlier. No. Yeah, he's part of the randomly generated party that pops on, and he's got all kinds of interesting. That show is so weird because half of you guys aren't on the screen, so it's crazy. It's like watching a broadcast from 2010 or something because there's nobody has any cameras.
We don't have the bandwidth to show video from
We
everybody.
can't show any video, but between him and Joe, nobody sees anything. But we get to see Rob. So we get to see Rob. So that's awesome.
Rob does a reach around like every 10 minutes.
Tim's on camera most of the time.
Yeah,
That's
Tim's
true.
on camera.
And Tim's on camera, and he's always doing something else, and he pops in 3 times during the show to say something. But he's always doing something. Really, he's working. Maybe he's working his second job. I don't know, or do something. But yeah, so
He's making signs. He's making signs.
We've got Greg on, and Greg is a creative gentleman, and for those who don't
gentleman?
know, yes, gentleman. I'm going to give. He's a creative.
Are
It's good. I
trying-
think we should use noble titles because we're going to talk about domain play tonight.
Well, so I liked his stuff for a long time, but I really got blown away when I saw his Shadow Dark stuff, which was a Shadow Dark Sun mix up, whatever. But it's great. It's great stuff. So if you like Dark Sun, even if you don't like Dark Sun, check out Shadow Dark or Shadow Sun. Shadow Sun, yeah. Check out Shadow Sun because it is a great take on Dark Sun. I like it better than Dark Sun. Okay, I would play that. I wouldn't play Dark Sun. I would play Shadow Sun because it's that cool. That's
a great.
That's just one thing
by
he's
the way.
done. He's done tons of stuff. That's just one thing he's done. But that gets my personal recommendation.
When Greg does a setting, that's usually, and he's done Ambition Avarice almost has like a built-in setting because
It's like an implied setting, yeah.
it's an implied setting. He's you don't feel like you are in the everyday generic fantasy sandbox setting that is thrown out
Right.
there. And the level of detail that Greg can get down to still blows my mind. And I've known Greg for what, 12, 13 years?
12 years, yeah, probably.
Yeah, we actually got to
Blog
know each other.
blog days. Yeah.
Yeah, well, before the days of D&D Next, because you invited me into the D&D Next Friends and Family beta test.
Yep. That was what a boondoggle that was.
Oh no.
Oh my
That was
god!
that was
Oh,
incredible. Yeah, I mean, I
God
don't have
rest its soul.
shade to cast on fifth edition, but that moment, the state that it was in at that point and how they were designing it really, it was a look under the hood that I regret getting. You know, I mean, it's kind of like, okay, maybe I should stop paying attention to what you people are making now.
But it's
Well-
better now, right? But it's better now, right? So you know.
Yeah,
Well,
well, see,
yeah. Now they just want to eat your face and steal your IP. It's much
Yeah.
better.
like, and Greg was smart because he's like, well, if we're going to be testing a system that wants to appeal to players of all editions, let's get old school gamers, 3E gamers, 4E gamers, get everybody in the party and see how it fit. And I think the 4E
Oh,
game
yeah.
was the hardest one.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was not happy with the situation. There was a creature that had wings, and it had like 3 hit points left, and somebody cast. Well, I mean, I guess it had more than 3 at the point when they cast a spell. They cast a spell that covered it in ice shards, and it reduced it to like 2 or 3 hit points. And I made the call that the ice shards cut the wings of the thing, so it couldn't just fly away with 3 hit points and be like, fuck you. So I said that's what happened. And he was really upset that I had deprived a creature of its movement mode unfairly.
God.
That was the way he approached it. I was like, whoa, we are in different universes.
Well, I still remember the encounter that got role played, and he got upset that it didn't require I don't know, an intimidation check. That instead you went with the PC's wonderful speech as holy crap, that was really good. And he's like, you can't do that. There's got to be a roll. And I was like, oh my god. I mean, yeah, it was it was different, and they changed the rules every 2 or 3 sessions.
Wild swings. Oh my god, yeah. Wasn't like we've refined this rule slightly. It was like we've replaced this entire system. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's like change your D20 to a D12. It's like, huh?
It sounds like nothing has changed over there in what you're trying to tell me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because they're still crap in the bed. Here we are now, years later. They're still crap in the bed. So,
Nah, not Watsy. Crap in the bed. So, oh, by the way, folks, there is a link on the bottom of the screen. So this way you can play along at home. Because the first half of the show, we're going to be talking with Greg about his latest release, Warlords of Gavardia.
Gavardia.
Holy crap, I got it right. Which is already a copper bestseller.
what?
It is, yeah, and
barely
it's
got released. Barely released. It's already
it was only released like 2 weeks ago.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
The 10th.
All right, so this is a setting for Adventure Conquer King System 2, but it does something that which if you read Adventure Conquer King System, whether it's the first edition or second edition, one of the strengths of it is this domain system that you don't really get a chance to do much with if you're a player. It's kind of like a behind-the-scenes thing for the DM until your players get to the proper level. But Greg said, fuck that. I think we're far enough in that I can curse. And still, we're probably not going to be monetized. What do I give a shit? But Greg literally said, fuck that. I'm going to do a setting, and it's going to assume that you are making critical, high level game decisions, and it's going to be domain management. It's going to be those high level games that we heard about when we were younger players, and then our campaigns didn't usually get that far, or if they did, we didn't have the rules built in to make it happen. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to see what Greg has offered here, and I think you got 5 stars. By the way, I can't review this because I am a publisher. I can't review
Oh
other
dear.
products. I can't. Not allowed. And
Yeah.
verboten. But it's already got 5 stars, 2 ratings, but no detailed reviews yet. But it's funny. You're a copper seller, and Adventure Conquer King System 2 isn't even out in print yet.
Yeah, it's I got a nice boost from Alexander McCree's tweeting out that it had happened, and then he put it in this Discord channel as an announcement. So we got a lot of activity like that, and I had shared it with him before we even went live, and he was really excited to talk about it. It's it's an alternative to the Arn Empire, which is the kind of default assumption included within Adventure Conquer King. That's true in the first edition. It's true in the second edition. The Arn Empire is kind of a late Roman empire that's corrupt and things are falling apart. And Alex has talked in numerous podcast interviews that he feels that players, modern players, are kind of less likely to want to go and seize the power of government if the rulers aren't kind of super corrupt. That helps
And it
push
makes
people
sense.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of approach it from a different direction. So this is a vibrant, expansive, maybe too expansive empire. It has an overextension problem. Um, and let me do a screen share here, Eric, of
Yep.
the map.
Screen share.
Yep. So this is the map, the world map. It's colossal, 10,000 by 10,000 pixel world map. And if you zoom in, you can see. Let's go over it. You see, these are all the things in the key that we're tracking. It's got all of the imperial cities and towns. It's got elven communities, dwarves, barbarian people, migratory people, halfling shires, beast folk, merfolk, and oasis communities in the desert. So when you go down to an area, so this is the border of the empire right here, which Joe pointed out is perfectly hexagonal. That's true because math is easier that way.
True.
But you can see, like, this is the border, and it has outside of the border all of these places that you could go conquer, right? Not just you could just skip over the adventurer phase and say, I'm going to start out at level 7, I'm going to start out at level 9, I'm going to start out at level 10, and put together a powerful force, mercenaries, raise your own army, whatever you do, and go outside of these borders. You could also start as a level 1 character if you want. It doesn't matter. But I wanted it to support that from the beginning because a lot of Alexander McCree's stuff assumes that you're kind of starting out at level 1 or level 3 or so, and there's not a lot of that jump right into it because he did a lot of wargaming supplements, as you know, where it's kind of abstracting out the battles. So
Right.
trying to come in here in the middle and have the detail levels really taxing on the PDF viewer. But it goes through you know, all these different provinces and all these different areas where you could be a noble, where you could raise your someplace like this island here is pretty protected. If you were from here, you would be kind of launching an invasion across into the border. You can also be part of like a civil war within the country, like the Roman Civil War. This is the capital here. It's on a peninsula that's very protected and very highly populated, like Italy. But the culture and the kind of setup of this empire is very, very different from the Roman Empire. I feel like we lean a lot on Rome in a lot of the stuff that we do in role playing, and I wanted to try to get away from that. So you can see, this is now we're getting over to the eastern border of the empire. This is the province of Kasich, and on the other side, there's barbarians. Down here, there's an entire reach of merfolk that are hostile. So yeah, you can jump right in at any particular level. And when you go into the book, I have for each province in here, just jump to this. You can see every hex. You can see who's the baron. It's a Spanish language equivalent, so hidalgo. You can see the baron. You can see who's the count. You can see who's the duke. You can pick any of these families and jump right in at that level. It tells you how many families are there, so you can calculate taxes with Adventure Conquer King and how much money you're going to have, the value of the land, the morale of the people that live in your domain, and the market size, so you can do goods calculations. Were you going to ask something, Mike?
Yeah, I wanted to say this. You know what this reminds me of, which is a very underappreciated setting. It reminds me a lot of Birthright.
Yeah,
Which,
I love Birthright. Yeah.
Yeah, I always liked the idea behind Birthright, but I never got a chance to play it. But I always wanted to try it because I like the idea that you're not a zero level schlub or a first level schlub. You start out as basically part of a noble family, or you're going to inherit a nation, and then you work from there. And I always thought that was a great beginning to a campaign. This sounds very similar. It sounds really cool. It sounds like.
Yeah.
That way you could just jump right into the nation building and not have to worry about the dungeon crawling if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. The Adventure Conquer Kings, the second edition, has expanded this a lot, but it has all sorts of incredible support for domain play. So, like the families, like I said, each family is producing this much GP per month in revenue for the ruler. Right. So you can calculate, okay, if I pick this poor province with only, people are not producing a lot of value and there's only 389 families, then that's going to be a different experience than if I am the Duke who controls every province with their name on it. And it's all of these families, thousands of families, some of these cities that are up to 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 families. The revenue from that is colossal, and that's what you use to determine how much money you can pay for your army and support and everything like that using Adventure Conquer King. You could also start as just a first level character and say, I'm going to kill this guy who's the baron of this little place, and I'm going to take his spot. Right? So you could try to go out and become stronger, and then eventually come back and knock one off. Or you could try to actually conquer a hex outside of the empire and add it to the empire.
Good idea. There's a bunch of good ideas right there. I've already thought of 3 campaigns. You're just throwing that out there that I'd love to run.
The thing that I've been trying to do with this, and what I'm going to do with my next project, we'll talk about a little bit later, is that in this world, is to create the ability to have a player reference rather than a GM reference. I think one of the things that we have as a problem in the whole hobby really is that we sell books to GMs. Right, we don't really sell that many books to players.
Well, WotC has a huge problem with that.
Yeah. They only we're really selling a ton of books to players. Let me jump to something more beautiful while we go through this. So we're selling stuff to players. I want to sell stuff to GM. We want to sell to players. So this book is designed to be kind of like, avoiding the massive setting dump that a GM might do on the player, and turn it around and say, this is a resource for you. You look up what province you want to go to, what you want to be involved in, how you want to play things. Then the player wants to read the memory dump. They want to do all this stuff rather than be like, you handle it, right? So in the back of the book, there's these goods by city you can see. So you could go to Apaj, which is a dwarven city, and you can buy beer and ale for super cheap, right? And then you can buy metals for very cheap from the dwarves. These are demand modifiers in Adventure Conquer King. So this would be like like massive reduction in the price to buy it, and then you could take those goods somewhere else. Let's say Brizich, which is a frontier city, and you could sell it at +4, right? As a merchant adventure. There's a class in Adventure Conquer King that is the charisma class, and it's a merchant adventurer. It's called the Venturer, and he has all these abilities to actually do this. So the player wants to read this stuff, know where, okay, I could go there, and then if you find a huge crate of let's say porcelain, you can say, where could we take this to get the most gold piece value? Because if you sell it for more gold pieces, you get more experience for it, right? So I wanted to try to turn it around from being, let's sell one book to a GM, and he's the only one who has to read about anything. He's the only one that has to have investment in the game. And instead turn it around to player is reading this stuff and go, hey, we need to go to this place because I figured out that I can sell this stuff here. I want to go to this place because the morale in this domain is low and we could launch a rebellion there, right? There's some parts of the empire that are unstable and other parts that are doing pretty good. So
a vacuum provides the player character with a motive to go in there
and they can find what they want to do in the game, and they can plan out. They can learn. Okay, when the leader of the empire dies, the Corono, there's these guys called the Adarim that are chosen during the interregnum, and then there's a election, like electing the Pope from the Cardinal Council. Okay, so they have this election. So if you wanted to get your player elected to be the next ruler of the empire, you would need to engage in all kinds of politics so that you can secure the votes to win this election, right? And Adventure Conquer King has tons of domain level support for that. So, like, if you're a fighter, you're going to build a castle. In ACKS 2, if you're a thief or an assassin or a blade dancer, I think also, you build a syndicate and a criminal guild, and you launch hijinks and mess with people, right? So you could be the fighter who's trying to get elected to be the next Corono, and your friends in your party could be going around trying to secure those votes for you. Here's the religion. It gives all the structure of the religion. It's a very expansive, mixes in some ideas from Islam in terms of holy war. It mixes in kind of a code of life and how to live your life from Buddhism. There's various stuff. It sees civilization as the ultimate thing to cultivate, which would be lawfulness. And then it has a counter to that in the evil devil-like guy, Vorus, who would be the equivalent of the Zaharans in the Aran Empire setting. So you can, if you're the priest type class, you can. Well, there's no priest. It's a crusader or a priestess. You would be interested in that part of the thing. So every aspect of the characters, you have things you want to look up that are in this book that will help you actually play the game, rather than it just being a setting book that the GM reads and tells you a few things out of.
Well, that's cool. Mr. Gunn has a question for you, by the way.
Yeah.
Is this like Game Designer Workshop's The Great Game that they ran for Traveler and Twilight 2000?
I don't know what that is. Can you tell me more about what that is?
Mike, do you know what it is?
No, I'm not. I think I used to at one point, but no, I don't.
Yeah, and I didn't. I don't think I even knew it at one point. So the Great Game though does sound like what was in Game of Thrones, right? Everybody, vying for power and different factions, and you're only as strong as what you can keep around you.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah. So I also have in here this part, instability. These are a bunch of things that can go wrong in the empire that the GM can use, but that the players are being made aware of so that they can also exploit them. Right. So there's a dwarven vault that wants to get protection. The dwarven province is asking for protection, but the human provinces are voting against it. So if you're a dwarf, you might try to, improve. If you're a human, you could try to exploit the situation, right? Um, you could try to use this as a way to justify you being in control of some army that goes to deal with this problem, and then you're now in control of an army.
Hmm.
Um, there's a halfling group that wants to join the empire. There's not ever been a halfling tributary state within the empire. So there's hesitance on that. You could be a diplomatic group that goes out there to try to do that and improve your own standing within the country. So all these different instabilities could blow out of control. The merfolk could start attacking shipping.
Well, and these are all adventure hooks too. So even if you were running this as a lower level campaign to build up to it, you've got adventure hooks that are going to be campaign hooks later,
Yep.
which is a pretty nice way to build into it.
And there's a bunch of places in the world map, just to switch back, where there are hard pressed border situations. This province up here, scroll up a little bit, called Rudki. Okay, it is overextended, so it's way too much territory for the amount of people that are living there. These are small cities with the little stars. The towns are lightly populated compared to other places, and they've seized all this territory because they're herding people, and they have a lot of sheep herds that are out in this area. But they don't control this land anywhere. So there's a lot of monster layers and problems out there. Adventure Conquer King has a way of stocking hexes. So you can stock a whole bunch of these hexes with serious monster problems that they could be dealing with, right? Those monster problems could get out of control and have maybe a town or a city burned to the ground. So that would spark it. Wherever you want to go in the whole map, there's things to do. This province over here is the only one on this island. So upriver from them is a forest packed with elves. These are all elves. The elves could put together an army and march and burn all these cities. So you can run it at that ninth level. You could also be a level 1 adventurer who wants to go upriver and see if there's anything that they can find up here.
By the way, Tim has a question for you.
Yep.
Is there a domain generator included or in development?
Domain generator for like Adventure Conquer King, or give me
I
some
would
more
guess.
info too. So in Adventure Conquer King 2's rule set, there's all kinds of rules for stocking hexes. If you clear those hexes, you can then establish it as your domain. And there's rules for how many families immigrate immediately, how many families reproduce over time. There's rules for population growth over time. There's all that kind of stuff. But the hexes that are in the empire, you don't need to generate. They're already generated on those charts that I showed you. So
Right.
you can
Okay.
look up the exact number of people living in any place within the border. Correction, except for the Elven and Dwarven provinces, because they keep secret. So the dwarves don't tell you how many people are living in their clan home. They just pay a certain amount of tribute every year to the empire. So elves do the same thing. So a lot of the elf territory is almost wild. Go
Now, although this is written for technically domain, it is certainly written with an emphasis on domain play for ACKS. This is old school setting and is probably pretty portable to any
Oh, you
system.
could run OSC, you could run Shadow Dark, you could run whatever you wanted, because all of the only kind of system specific information is that it tells you how many families live in the hex.
Yeah, that's
and
just
what
a setting. This is a
Yeah.
setting you could use with anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And if we go to the description, these are the kind of the province descriptions. It shows you the languages that are spoken there. It has what kind of architecture, festivals that they have, the dress. Each province has a different kind of dress. I don't want to say dress code, but style of dress, cuisine, how they move things around, the security situation. This is the imperial core, so it's very secure. And there's a sport within the empire, kind of like gladiatorial battles in Rome, called the Ocho Sangriento, which is how you can get your freedom if you're captured in a war. Okay, so they have these battles in a huge arena, and you have to complete 8 battles. After each battle, you kind of take a break, but you have to come back and you have to complete 8 battles in order to get your freedom. And every time you win a battle, the water level goes up by 6 inches. So eventually you're in 4 feet of water, and the final battle is against a giant octopus.
Okay.
Ouch.
Right. So it kind of combines the naval battles that Rome did back in the day with it's in melee. So yeah, you're in a melee battle with 2 feet of water around you. That's gonna really affect your tactics and strategy. And then if you succeed, you become a citizen, and there's a path all the way up the citizen hierarchy. That's a meritocracy. Then this is another province. Each province has all sorts of values that are different, so none of them are clones of any real world culture, right? So
Okay.
Abd Habi sounds kind of like an Arabic language name. It's actually Phoenician if you break down the story. But the Jabi people have built huge mounds like the Native American people in North America and in Central America. So they have these huge mounds that have been left behind that they're kind of not using as much anymore now that they're part of the empire, but that kind of defines their architectural style in that time frame. And then they have festivals. They're mostly the same as the empire, but they have their own special festivals. They have their own style of dress that is flowing white robes, kind of a Middle Eastern Arabic type feel. They have wheat and bread and very kind of Northern European style cuisine with oats and barley and rye and porridge. And then they have a lot of security in this area, but they have parts of the province that are not secure. So it's not as secure as the core imperial core, but it's getting worse. And then when you go to further out, way far out, this is let's see, Mecdella is a good one. They're far away from the imperial core. They have a totally different set of language balances that's been spoken. They have festivals to an older serpentine gods set that they're trying to eradicate from these local people. They build things out of purple crystalline deposits that are very distinctive. So everything is different, but it's not an analog to any real culture. Everything is a piece, and it's put together so that it's a totally different experience. You don't say, "Oh, this is where you're in fantasy Germany, you're in
Right.
fantasy
Okay.
Rome,"
Yeah.
stuff like that. So every place kind of has its own distinctive feel that's different. One of my favorite deviations is in Ashar. They have a festival here where, for the spring winds, they choose the two ugliest people on the island, and they voted to be sacrificed. And they covered them in ashes and pig blood and chased them around the island and kill them as a sacrifice to ensure strong winds for
Well,
the
see,
next year. Right.
Of
So
course.
you show up to do some trading and you run into this festival, it's going to be a
well,
different experience.
Nice.
well, especially if one of your characters is the ugly motherfucker.
That's
Oh,
right. You better not
no.
have a charisma of 3.
Oh, no.
I was my dumb stat. By the way, you got a
No.
couple of questions. I can answer the first one. Is this a separate product or included in the Kickstarter? This is Greg's own product.
Yeah.
This isn't Kickstarted. It is live on a drive-through. You can grab it now. Link is on the bottom of the screen. How does one update the maps to track changes in the environment?
Well, the map I put it in PDF so people could make their own notes. You can go into PDF and just leave a sticky note right there and say, "We killed an ogre here," and be done. And then it's always there. Right? So you could put any deviations or changes that you make right into the file. Just make a backup copy.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Dandelion Games. Greg, what sort of mechanics help capture that water sloshing around in battle for that contest? The visual in my mind is great.
Well, I did kind of leave a lot of that to the GM because I didn't want to get into system specific rule decisions. But I was figuring if I was running it, there would be all kinds of movement penalties. If you rolled natural 1, not a good day for you. You're going under. If somebody starts a grapple check on you and throws you underwater, all they have to do is pin you, and you're dying. Just depends on what in Adventure Conquer King. There's a lot of rules for special actions in combat, disarms, sunder, throwing stuff up, just like in a lot of other games. So.
Yeah, interesting comments coming from the Peanut Gallery. Thank you, folks. I do appreciate it. So, I mean, I remember trying to do name level adventuring / conquering with my group back in my elder teens, and my group wanted to conquer the Wild Coast because in Great Hawk it was probably the only place you could conquer was the Wild Coast because everything else was established. Um, and I don't do what I did, folks. I used a grease pencil or grease marker to mark their conquered territory, figuring it would wipe right off. And it wiped off along with all the ink of the map.
Good job.
Yeah, so I still have that somewhere in the Great Hawk Folio, where you could see how my group advanced in their conquering as the Wild Coast suddenly dissolved into a grayish smear.
Okay.
And then I went, I guess that is. I wish we had PDFs back then. I would have really enjoyed that.
Well, I did make a short list of all sorts of things that are in Adventure Conquer King 2 that I feel like are fantastic subsystems. They're all optional. If you could start playing the game at level 1 and it's like as complicated as OSC or
Right.
maybe even Shadow Dark in some cases. In the second edition, he streamlined it so you can choose a template and get proficiencies locked in. You don't even have to pick proficiencies. So it's pretty easy thing. But one of the things that is, like I said, missing is there at that domain level thing. There's not a lot of material to support doing that. There's a lot of dungeons for low level characters, but not at the high level. So one of the things that he has in the overland movement rules is when you roll encounters, you can roll. You're really rolling for there being a lair for a monster that's in that area, or a terrain feature. So like you could roll a random encounter and get a mage's tower. You could roll a random encounter and get a hidden spring, right? And as you explore across the map, you just start filling those things in, and pretty soon you got, okay, in order to clear this hex, I'm going to have to take out the ogre, and I'm going to have to take out the band of goblins. I'm going to have to take out this. And for his monster entries, instead of like just here's what one goblin is, there's here's how many goblins are in a gang. Here's how many goblins are in a war band. Here's how many goblins are in a village. So you could stat up whatever. You could say, okay, there's a war band of hobgoblins that lives in this hex, and that's like 60 hobgoblins. You know, I mean, that's a serious problem. You put, high level monsters like dragons or big giants, all kinds of stuff that you can put in there to really beef and make it so even though you're starting at level 9, these are serious problems that you're going to run into if you wanted to try to go out there and take over something. He has rules, and I hope I'm not wrong about this, but he has rules, but I have not seen any support in terms of a product where you actually go on a naval voyage, right? So he has rules for buying vessels, crew, cargo, provisioning everybody, determining wind direction, navigating, running into hazards, sea encounters, evading combat at sea, actually having ship-to-ship combat with boarding and ranged attacks and ramming and all that stuff. And that's what there is no supplement for. That's what one of the things that got me started doing this is I was like, I want to do that, right? And then in the campaign side, you have the classic kind of you're a fighter, you build a stronghold when you reach 9th level, whatever. But then there's other classes that have different things that they do. Like I mentioned that you could build a hideout for your syndicate and they could launch criminal activity if you're a thief or an assassin. You can build a mercantile company as the venturer and begin making investments and running the merchant side of things to raise revenue, because revenue is XP, right? So if you can earn money from your trading, then your characters are going to level up. If you're a wizard, you can build a sanctum and put a dungeon underneath it to stock it with monster parts and all kinds of stuff like this. He's got all these great rules. And then, of course, I think most people know, and when you get up to the king level, you're running armies that are broken down into different units. You've got military campaigns. You can do all this stuff with pitched battles, sieges, all kinds of full birthright level, domain play level combat interactions. And there's some really cool rules for making a heroic foray during the battle. So like the battle's going on and you're going to lead your party with some kind of core shock troops to make a huge attack on the flanks in this one place. And you can roll that as like its own little encounter that gets resolved. And if you're successful, now you've kind of punched through the line like Alexander the Great, and you start to turn the tide, right? So whatever level you want to go with, there's all these rules. And I was like, what? I don't have any place to actually run this. Like, how can I run this campaign? These two places on the map look pretty close, but that's 50, 60 mile difference. Yeah, that's a long sail in a galley with Dead Reckoning, it's much further from there to go north all the way up to the frontier, right? So making these kind of naval journeys would be their own quest. I don't know if you guys have watched Macreese's Grey Brotherhood live play, but they were traveling down a river on a barge and they failed their surprise rolls, and a giant I want to say dragonfly came up and like ate a dude's face off. I mean, it was brutal. I was like, holy crap. So imagine how much worse it would be if you're traveling across the sea and you roll a
sea serpent. Oh,
yeah.
no. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are
So
screwed.
that's what inspired me. I'm running a game on Saturday night that's not set in this because this didn't exist when I started running the campaign. It's set in a desert map of my own creation, and I put classic modules out there. I put Caverns of Thracia out there. I put the Lost City out there. There's one more that I don't want to say for my players who are listening, but there's all sorts of things out there, and they just are exploring it, and they're already wanting to set up domain level stuff. They from the very beginning, the first thing they found was this grove that was resin producing trees like frankincense, and they were like, we need to build a town right here and start bringing in people to start working on these frankincense bushes. We're going to make a bunch of money and blah 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 blah. And I was like, you're level 1. Right. Like, but that's what they want. Like, players have all these ideas about what they want to do, and that's what got me thinking, okay, like, what can I do to make it so that you can actually use all of these tools that Alex has made that are fantastic?
Mr. Gunn, Greg, Chubby Funster. When a PC reaches a higher level, doesn't the game transform from being an RPG into a board game?
I don't think so, because I think you got to RPG harder, man. The higher up your level goes, but you've got all kinds of problems that you don't have at first level. You know,
Yeah.
for example, my guys are only level 3, and they have started trying to build, get some people to live near these trees, and they have to protect those people. They now have an investment in the world. They have to go and make sure that the hobgoblin village isn't going to attack them, and they have to make sure that this problem over here doesn't get. There's a giant ant hill near the village that they've been trying to kill off, right? And these are 4-hit die giant ants. They're tough shit, man. You run into 8 of them out in the desert. It's tough. And so they're like, how are we going to kill off all these giant ants? Because that's the great thing about this Adventure Conquer King stuff, is he doesn't just tell you what the stats are for one ant, right? You've got stats for a whole hive, and like the hive is in there, and there's all these gold nuggets that they've been digging out as trash, right? This gold is in the way. Please get out of the way so I can get to the stuff that I want in here, right? So there's all these gold nuggets in the anthill that you can get as a massive treasure, 6,000 GP treasure, 10,000 GP treasure, if you can just get down in there. But they're 4-hit die ants, they're tough.
Yeah, I think Dandelion Games, political intrigue, treaties, backwater deals, bringing armies together. That's role play, and that is true. As the game progresses, if you've ever run a game from, I don't know, first to low to mid teens, which I did back in the day, um, it gets much more swingy once you get to name level. The power level of your PCs gets to the point where it's hard to challenge them with a traditional adventure. Political intrigue, getting them involved in something beyond dungeon crawling, is where the focus usually needs to go. Because if it's dungeon crawling and you're pulling out 5th or 6th level spells, a well placed spell from either your PCs or a non player character in competition with them in an encounter can end a campaign or just end a combat real quickly. It's much more swingy at high levels. So to change the focus is what I learned you had to do, and I think Adventure Conquer King system exceeds at that.
Yeah, and to answer optional rules thing, my favorite thing is to have high level players deal with these low level adventures. If you steal 1 copper piece from a player character, they will hunt your ass to the end of the earth. Okay, they will never let you go. That players hold more grudges in games than I've ever seen. There's all these memes for video games where it's like, when an NPC talks some shit and you go ahead and quick save before you beat the shit out of them. You know, like people hold a grudge, and if you have they go off on an adventure and come back and find out that some adventuring group broke in and stole their magic item from their mage tower.
Oh
Oh
boy.
man,
Yeah.
they will hunt those guys down.
Well, yeah. If you do it, if they let you get away with it, come on. You can't let somebody get away with something like that.
Exactly. I wouldn't.
Yeah, look at the D&D movie. I mean, just to show those are generally speaking lower level characters that are getting into uh, dealing with higher level issues, and it was an entertaining movie. It wouldn't work as a D&D adventure as it was written, that's for sure. But you can see what happens where when you got to think out of the box to succeed, right? Because if you head, a lot of groups like to do things head on. Head on is not going to help you in X. All right, the way the system is written, they want your players to think of the most advantageous ways to deal with an encounter.
Yep. And that's the thing is I wanted to be able to skip a lot of that stuff and jump right in. The thing I'm working on right now is a 9th level adventure. The main character is the 9th level fighter, and everybody else is 8th level. A little bit. He's the one who hasn't died as often as the other characters. In
That's his claim to fame.
Yeah, in Acts 2, you can set aside reserve XP by doing wasting money, buying a great funeral, all kinds of stuff. And so he's the one who hasn't died yet. Everybody else has had to burn some XP on dying and coming back with less XP. So this guy is kind of the leader of the party in a sense, but it's a party of 8 people that are all pre-gens. I was working on them today. And I tell you, man, making an 8th level pre-gen with a whole lot of money and gear it's a challenge. And so put this together, and then I'm going to put together everything that they have learned. Right, that's the thing, is that these characters aren't starting out fresh. In ACKS, there's an explorer class, and the venturer class can both gain knowledge over areas, right? So they've been adventuring. They've been based in this province of the empire, and they've been adventuring all along these untamed islands out here across the portent. And now they have enough money that they could actually establish a stronghold. And the suggested place is going to be on this island, but they can do whatever they want. They've discovered all of this territory, and they're familiar with it, so they know like that there's dragons that live here, there's ogres that live here, whatever, and they can pick where they're gonna try to go and actually clear hex and establish a domain, right? And it's a role for every single character has like a really powerful role in doing this. There's the character who is the charming C-3PO who's gonna bamboozle all of these Ewoks on this island, right? There's the guy who's managing all the provisions and supplies. There's the guy who's arranging the nobles and the diplomacy because once you take this island, you're going to be a kingdom of you, and you're going to want to try to find, okay, I'm going to declare that I'm underneath the count that lives down here, or I'm under the baron or the this duke or whatever, so that then that'll put you in the political fight as soon as you pick somebody to be a vassal of, right? So there's all kinds of different decisions that have to be made, and it's going to be a wealth of player choice. That's the thing. Like, people think of like at high levels is you got all sorts of details, but it means that puts the choice in your hands. You can decide. I'm not going to take over this island. I'm going to conquer this peninsula and subdue these barbarians. right? I'm not going to mess with these. I'm going to make an alliance with these beastmen over here, and I'm going to help. I'm going to use their army as as auxiliaries or something in my attack. And then I'll take this city intact. Or you could try to colonize this island where there is nobody, right? And all those decisions are going to have consequences, right? So that's kind of the reason why you have a high level character in the first place. Like, so you want to expand all the choices that are available to you constantly. Oh, now I can do this. Now I can do that. I have this magic item. It'll help me do this. And it really puts one of the things I think is great about domain play is it takes a lot of the burden off of the GM. Really, it puts so much of the responsibility with the player in terms of what they want to do.
Yep.
They have to decide, okay, I'm going to go do this, and before I walk into that Beastman city, I need to make all these diplomatic arrangements, and I need to have my retinue, and I need to have this, and I need to do that, right? So that's what my whole thing was about maximizing player choice. You have this whole empire, you have this huge map. You can go anywhere. You can go across any border. You can be a noble family. You can be a first level character. Whatever you want to do.
Now I'm gonna bring up the drive-through screen real quick for this. It's $5. You're getting a 150-page setting for $5.
Dude,
Well,
you need to charge more money. This is not
Yeah,
enough money.
you got to go to the Greg Gillespie
way
school.
more money. Yeah,
I don't believe in the Greg Gillespie school of pricing.
Oh man, you need to. Yeah, you're gonna. This is not good, man.
You're like in the film.
You take a finance class. You need to take a finance class or something.
Yeah, so this is like the Phil Reed pricing scheme going on here. Yeah. Next thing you know, he'll be saying, "Well, I'll sell it for $1, but sell 10,000 copies." It's really just good. Dave just got it. Thank you, Dave. Again, not just blowing smoke up anybody's ass. Greg does some of the best detailed writing that you're going to find in the OSR. Really spot on. And this is, as he puts it, a 9800 hex setting. That is, I don't even know what to say with that. That's fucking huge.
What's crazy is it's only about the size of France and Germany put together. When you actually do the square mileage. Yeah.
So he and if you go to the page, Greg, one thing I hate about drive-through is some descriptions are like 3 sentences for a product that's like 400 pages, and you're left going, I think there's something left out. Greg gives probably the most detailed breakdown of a 146-page product. You know exactly what you're going to get with this.
What's it called? What's it called again, Eric?
Warlords of Gavardia.
And by the way, Warlord is the 9th level title for a fighter.
Yeah.
There we go.
Quick, give us a link before these bastards just talking into raising his price. All right, so Ty, for those that can't look up, I put the link up, by the way, I don't know, 4 or 5 spots ahead of your comment, but it's also on the bottom of the screen so far for the whole frickin' video. Just saying, sir. I mean, I know you like to pretend you're James Bond, but I don't think you're doing much spying. Esteban Vasquez, I picked this up on Friday, and the map alone is worth the price of admission.
Ooh, who did the map?
This guy named Greg.
Oh, sounds like he might know what he's doing.
Yeah, cool. I actually developed a rendering style back in the Google Plus days 10 years ago for making these maps. And it's basically, in Photoshop, you can make a cloud render, which it just looks like swirling black and white. And if you isolate the colors and then texture them, it creates random terrain. You create like 12, 15 layers of all these different layers of texture. And it comes out looking like satellite map if you do it right. And I have a little image that I share. I've shared it in Shadow Dark group recently because somebody was asking me about how I did my maps, and it just describes like it's like a 10-step process in Photoshop. Like render this thing, here, change this setting, bam, there it is. It's great. I really pushed the system resources boundary on this one because it's basically a bitmap rather than it being a vector. So, because it's all the layering of the textures, so it creates a lot of system resource drain on my side. But I mean, if I went over 99 by 99 hexes, then it would have turned into 6-digit hex codes, which makes me cry inside a little bit. So I didn't go that far. But I wanted to see what would be the maximum that I could render out, and 9800 is about it. It's about the end of my. I'm going to need a new computer. I have a good computer because I'm addicted to video games, and yeah, it struggled. Rob Conley was all like, "You need to use vectors and do this and that," and I'm like, "Yeah, but then it won't look like the way I want it to look." So, oh well, it's yeah, it's a mere 10 steps, Mr. Gunn, but you just do it about 4 billion times.
Oh, well then, it's a lot of repeated steps, I guess. And Mr. Gunn, thank you for your.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I remember Greg when. Oh my God, Greg, I still have your, because I have the PDF, so therefore they're always on my drive-through account, like Cascade Failure and stuff like that.
Yeah,
some of your earlier stuff.
That was back when I was a optimist.
Oh, the optimist dies 1,000 deaths.
Yes,
one. Come on, we all know that.
Well, I've had 8,000 downloads of Cascade Failure. It's
really?
free. It's free,
okay.
So people add it all the time, and it shows up every month when I run numbers to see what sales are. Like 25 Cascade Failures or whatever. Yeah.
Very nice. All right, so I think now we're going to go into our This Week in Gaming Stupid aspect. I don't know.
We have
Mike, do we have any real heavy gaming stupid?
Well, hold on. We're not going to even talk to Greg about his...
Oh, wait, he has another project coming up he was going to talk about.
Because I was very interested in this.
The Skyrim one?
Yes, because that's my favorite all-time video game of all time.
Me too. I love it.
Yeah. I just started a new replay after 5. I hadn't done one in 5 years, and I loaded that sucker up.
Let me pull up the player's guide is done. There's like a short player's guide that's finished, and the running the GM side, I'm populating a lot of hexes with short descriptions, but it's still a lot of hexes. So let me see. So here's the map. Let me share that first. And so this is for Shadow Dark, and it has a map that you're familiar with. And I tagged all the hexes that I populated to make it easier to read and locate them. And then you use Kelsey's rules for randomly filling the other ones. And I have some tables that I've added that make it more flavor for Skyrim.
Based on Shadow. So it's based on Shadow, or I'm sorry, Skyrim. So in what way is it based on Skyrim except the map looks vaguely familiar? Is it,
all right. Well, let me bring up
let's go into it.
Player's guide. Okay, so this is the player's guide. I use the constellation stuff from Skyrim.
Okay.
You roll a background like in Shadow Dark. Stats are the same. You could be Catfolk instead of Khajiit.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
You can be
he had changed a
lizard
few of those
folk.
names, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to protect the
yeah, I
IP.
got
I
you. I got
understand.
you. Yeah.
So you pick your thing. Then for class, you pick a star sign. If you're a Nord, you can take the blade. Otherwise, or you can roll 1d8 and take the other star signs. So the blade is uses shouts, right? It's
Oh,
for
like the
Nords
Dragonborn.
only.
So
Yeah.
basically, you're the
So
Dragonborn. Yeah.
this is the blade, and so you roll the 2d6 like Shadow Dark, and then you get whatever star you rolled,
Ah, okay.
right? So you could get,
Heavy
um,
randomizer element. Big
yeah,
randomizer. Yeah.
you could get Fuzzro Da here on a 7, the most common
Mm.
result, right? So then there's a coin, which has more like illusion, charming type magic stuff. The magic spells are spread out across all the classes, just like
Right. Just
in
like
Skyrim.
Shadow.
And you can change your sign if you go to a shrine and make a sacrifice. It's a sizable sacrifice, so you got to want it. But you can change it. The dragon is more like destruction and elemental spells. Um, if you do the eye, it has runes and ranged attacks and um, kind of vision based stuff and muffle, different
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. The falcon is a conjurer, right? So you can get conjure saber tooth, conjure elemental. There's like fireflies is like, God, what's the name of the spell where you make all the little twinkling lights? It's like a first level
Oh,
spell.
a
It's
Fury
like,
Fire.
there you go, fairy fire, stuff like that. So you put in there. The fist is more of a fighting, killing undead like Stendar in Skyrim. The horn is all kind of like healing and helpful magic wards, healing spells, regeneration. The ring is almost all illusion stuff: hypnotism, mirage, suggestion, counterspelling, calming people, etc. The skull is undead. You could bring back, animate dead is not on 7, so it's the most common result. And then revenant is on 12. That's when the person comes back with all their
Oh yeah.
abilities, not just a cheap zombie. And
Ooh.
then there's language choice, and you just roll. There's random starting equipment instead of having to actually choose, like in Shadow Dark. So I made it even faster.
Mm-hmm.
You get a few coins in your pocket, and you roll twice on this table for stuff, and then you get a random weapon, and you get padded armor and a shield, and then
Now,
you roll
now, do
out.
you, now, speaking of some specific Skyrim stuff, do you have the equivalency of the Nords battling the Thalmor battling the Empire type
I
thing?
have. Let me go through this first. I will get to that for sure.
Okay, okay, all
Before
right.
I'm going to do this before I close the file. So I have alchemy in here also. I know a lot of people
Ooh.
love alchemy.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my
So
favorites in
yeah,
Skyrim.
so like in Skyrim, there's 4 levels of effects, right? And I wanted them to not be fixed, so that you can't just go to the Skyrim wiki and go, oh, okay, I got to put Death Bell with Vampire Dust to create an
Mm.
invisibility spell, right? So you consume the ingredient and you make a wisdom check and you roll randomly and get
Ah,
a alchemical ingredient. Then if you put 2 of those same pieces in the same potion, you roll again and get another one. It'll be different every time. So you'll be figuring out what's in there, right? And then there's a way of figuring out the third one that involves experimentation, and the fourth one is even more experimentation, right? So then you end up, if you have 2 ingredients, you get the normal effect. If you have 3 ingredients with that, you get a major benefit or an extreme effect, right? So for all of the different ones, it's got more and more powerful alchemy, right? So put that this is kind of the player book that you can give to a new player. They don't have to read the whole rule. They don't have to read all this. You just give it to them, and it looks great. I have a test print. It
Oh,
looks
nice.
fantastic. Okay, so then I don't think I have. Let me actually. I'm going to share the InDesign file. I got to bring up the InDesign because I don't have it finalized in a PDF. But
So Skyrim was something I didn't play when it first came out because it was buggy, and then I didn't start playing it about 10 years ago. My grandson played. He started playing,
all right,
and he's
so
like, "Papa, man, you gotta watch this game. You gotta play this game. This is awesome." And so I watched. He and I played it together. He was running the character, and I would give suggestions. And then finally, I said, I gotta do this myself. So I was absolutely hooked on it. It's an incredible game. I mean, I played some of the earlier, get earlier games in the series, but this one was just incredible.
I have high elf dominionists, right, and they are emissaries and justicars and zealots, and they're hunting down people that do that, and they have some pretty good magical abilities compared
Yeah,
to a
they're
Thalmor.
badass. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty badass.
And then I have instead of um, what are they called? Man, my brain's freaking out. The elves that live underground.
Oh, the
I have
Falmer. The
Falmer.
Falmer.
Yeah, Falmer. Instead of Falmer, we have a cave elf, and then they raise cave hornets that have a larva and an adult phase. There's demons instead of Daedra. There's dwarven automatons, right?
But no dwarves, right? Just like in the
No,
original.
dwarves are all extinct,
Yeah, they're all extinct.
and there's ancient ones that are kind of like the Draugr that have voice abilities, right? So they can use the same thing. So the got it all. Giants, different elementals, giant rats, hags, mammoths, necromancers, saber-tooths, tigers,
Cool.
shadows, spriggans. That's a word everybody owns.
There you go.
Vampires, wraiths, tuskers as walrus-like creatures with tusks. So everything's in there just kind of altered so we don't hurt anybody's feelings.
Yeah, there you go. You don't, don't get in
And
trouble.
but yeah, so I've got all of the alchemical ingredients here divided into gathered ingredients and trophies that you take. I've got all the equipment you can make stuff out of ebon, moonstone, orichalcum, quicksilver, different stuff. It has effects, right? So moonstone reduces the gear slots that you need in Shadow Dark to carry stuff like that.
So
Um,
what races do we look at here? We have the because I'm
it has
you,
it has
you
8.
have the
Yeah,
well you have the humans, but then you have different varieties of humans because you have the
I really didn't model all of the humans that are in. Um, is it?
Skyrim.
Let me
Well, like
reshare
for
it.
instance, like the Bretons are better at
Yeah,
magic
I
and
didn't
stuff
go
like that.
that deep. Let me put the
Okay.
player's guide back up. Okay, so I have dark elves, high elves,
Mm-hmm.
and wood elves as
Okay.
the 3 different types of elves. Then there's Nords and Imperials.
Okay.
If somebody's
Covers
coming from
about it.
another
Yeah.
province, then what you can make house rule whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then there's the cat folk, lizard folk, and orcs.
Orcs. Okay.
So
That about
each
covers it
one,
all. Yeah.
yeah. And being an Imperial is actually, pretty good. I've always felt like it sucked in Skyrim. You get an extra roll on your talent tree. So got some good stuff. And I've kind of been writing different. Oh, I don't have the InDesign up anymore. But I've been writing the cities and the encounters out there, and I'll kind of mention things that will be familiar to people, but leave lots of room for the GM to modify, change it, whatever use
So,
whatever
so, so the
dungeon
so
map
the
they want.
the original Skyrim game, it's cool. Well, it's one of the really coolest games because you have obviously a major plot line, which is the Dragonborn, but you have it's very sandboxy. There's tons and tons of
Yeah.
stuff you do. So, what's the approach to the campaign in that?
Well,
So
I figure, like, with Shadow Dark, the focus is on living, you know, so there's a lot of the kind of treasures in Shadow Dark are pretty small. Time, like 100 GP, 200 GP
Right.
is a lot. I made it so that there's. I'll tell you what. Let me reshare that in design file. The city I've created, it's kind of in the style that Kelsey developed in the Cursed Scroll stuff. But she has tons of great ideas about how to lay out adventures. But like so Mage Hold is kind of like Winterhold, right? Okay, so there's an alchemist here. So this is how I handle like a shop. So like there's an alchemist here that you can buy stuff or sell it for 80%, right? There's a bridge. You have to cast a different spell at each of the 3 orbs to cross the bridge. In Shadow Dark, if you fail the spell roll, you fail the spell, right? There's a roll. It's not automatic casting. So if you fail one of those 3 castings, you fall, the bridge collapses, you fall, take 8d6 damage. So getting into the college is serious business.
Yeah.
Right? And then the college is one of the only so far it's the only way I've written for you to train to actually learn a new spell outside of rolling it off a talent table. Right? So being in the college is a serious advantage.
Yeah.
Then there's a library there that you can try to steal from. Here's kind of some rules if you're trying to steal. There's ruins that have a chance of there being a wraith in there. And the other hex for Winterhold, basically, there's an inn and a temple. This isn't in the game. An open air temple where there's a bonfire that has to be kept burning, and people bring ice sculptures there, and they try to place the sculpture as close to the fire as they can, but not so far away that it doesn't melt, because as long as it's melting, they're going to get a blessing. Right? So you could come here and make 1,000 GP sacrifice per level to change to worship ACKS. Right? So there's also a trader here that you can use to buy regular gear. So that I kind of I'm putting things in like this. This is kind of settlements, and then for some of the exploration sites, right? Like here's some bandits that are in this cave.
Oh, okay.
It kind of describes the situation, and then in addition to whatever loot the bandits have when you roll treasure table for them, there's also additional treasure table loot in there. Okay. So if you just were running into a regular hex and you ran across bandits, you would only be getting the treasure that they had. But this is like a bandit lair, so to speak, right? So then this is a guy, I mean, he's inspired by a real dude in the game who's doing experimentation with fire elementals in a little cave, right? So I just wrote a little description. As the GM, you could do the full everything that they have in Sky. Like you could describe all kinds of stuff in there. I just said there's a guy in a cave that's got 3 fire elementals, and he's got a bunch of treasure. Regular low-level treasure, but treasure. This treasure is much bigger. In Shadow Dark, there's treasure tables based on your level, right? So this is a 5th to 6th level treasure. Compared to 5 level 1 to 2 treasures, right? So, just right here's the ship. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's played Skyrim. There's a ship that ran aground, right? There's giant mud crabs, right? And a tusker, and you run it like that. And if you get down into the ship, you get these treasures, right? So, totally open. I'm gonna have some places that really kind of feel like bosses that you're gonna want to avoid, but most of the stuff is just going to be exploring and having kind of Shadow Darky experience in combat, running into small encounters, trying to survive. I mean, Shadow Dark's pretty harsh.
It's for those people who really, really have always wanted to play Skyrim as an
Exactly.
RPG, but they, nobody had ever done it before, so
Yeah, and
they weren't able to do
some
it.
people have done it, but usually what they do, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. If you're fine
Go
with this,
ahead,
that's
hurt your
cool. But
feelings.
I feel like a lot of times when people do fan made stuff, they go so deep in the detail because it's
Yeah.
there. It's on the wiki. It's whatever.
Hmm.
They go so deep into the detail that then it becomes a slog that nobody wants to read.
It's like the Dragonlance adventures when they came out. That it was way
Yeah.
too follow exactly the path that the party took in the books. Would
It's
nobody
like
really wanted
being
to do
I don't
that.
want to be Frodo specifically, you
I
know.
want to I want to
I mean,
explore that
shit.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be in
So,
that world. I want to have my own adventures. I
yeah.
don't want to
Right?
repeat
Yeah.
somebody else's.
And my main goal is just to create the framework so that somebody can run it to the detail level that they want. If they just want to run it as, and this is kind of one of the things I really like about Shadow Dark is you can just run a beer and pretzels game where people aren't really putting that much of their mental energy into it.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're running an ACKS campaign, like they need to be in it to win it.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
details
there's
there.
a much level differential in player investment. So, that's kind of the two very different projects. But
Very
yeah,
cool though. I'm a big Skyrim fan. I'll have to pick that up later and see how that goes. Although once again, there's far too many campaigns out there, and there's far too little time left in my life to do all these cool campaigns. So I'll probably just have to read it and enjoy
well,
it.
have you heard the legends of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Ah,
That's not an answer, Mike. Have you heard?
no, I
It's
have
not the
not.
kind of thing you can learn from a Jedi. Let's just say
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
But now it's interesting that Greg brings up these fan wikis, and these fan wikis are very complete.
Oh,
And
I know where you're going with this now.
well, no, and I actually spoke with someone who has done licensed work on IP that has various fan wikis, and they were told while doing their writing that they should go to the fan wikis are so complete. You should go to the fan wiki for your research, but please rewrite what you got.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm right now. The game I'm playing is Red Dead Redemption 2, which once again I'm like 5 years behind everybody when it comes to video games. I wait, but the wiki is so detailed and so complete. I mean, literally to the point where if there's I don't. If people don't play video games, don't go to wikis, don't understand the level of immersion some people have in these games. You can look up a site in the wiki; it will tell you every single thing that can possibly be found at that site, every effect it could have on future things that go on in the game, every character that could be associated with it. I mean, it's an absolutely the last word on what that game's about, and it's just amazing to me people put in the time and effort to play the game so many times they find this stuff out.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Have your character stand exactly in
Mm-hmm.
this
Oh yeah.
spot so they can find X item, which you cannot find otherwise. I mean, when we were
Well,
younger, we were playing like I don't know the gold box games. You wanted to get the hint books, or find a magazine that give you a bit of a walkthrough.
mm-hmm.
Now these games are so complex that but now you're getting like free wikis doing it for you, whereas before you
Well,
were paying
the, there's
10 bucks.
I need to get a perfect panther pelt for this saddle I'm trying to make, and so I looked it up.
Panther's
Tells you
the hardest one.
Yeah, it tells you exactly where to go, what time of day to go there, because they're only active at night at certain times of night. So it's exactly go there. It tells you what rock to stand on, because if you go to a certain rock, it can't attack you. Because one of the problems with getting panther pelts is it'll jump your ass and tear your
One
face off.
hit, man. One
Yeah, and
hit kill.
so you go there. It tells you what weapon to use versus it, and so you go to that site. It makes it much easier. You go to that site, you go to the rock, you wait till that time. It tells you what I was gonna say potions, what tonics to take to make it easier to kill a thing, and then so it basically does 90% of the work for you. You don't have to fuck around getting your ass kicked night after night. You just go, okay. And I mean, so the first time I did it, I killed the panther. I didn't get a perfect pelt though. I only got a good pelt. So because I panicked and hit him in the lung or something instead of the head. I don't know. But anyway, but yeah, that's how. But it made it so much easier for me. I don't have to mess around with all this shit. I know exactly what to do to get the pelt. I just have to do it over and over again until I get the perfect shot in there. But it's ridiculous. And every single creature that's in the game is in these wikis. And the same thing obviously with Skyrim's been out longer, twice as long as Red Dead Redemption. So there's even more information in Sky. I mean, it's everything. Like on Skyrim, you have these entire pages to get dedicated to what potions you can make and how to make them all. And they know every recipe for every single potion. I mean, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds of possible potions because every ingredient there in the game can possibly react with, 5 or more other ingredients to do something else. So it's just amazing the level of detail in these fan wikis. It's unbelievable.
That's why I tried to make it so it's random every time, so you don't know.
That's why. So you can't have people gaming the game, right? Well, and then actually we're going to discuss this, and then if Greg wants to give one or two things away, we can do that.
Yeah. I'm prepared.
All right. Ooh, he's prepared. So I guess this week in gaming stupid, and it's not just the pure stupidity that was how this happened. Modifius. How do you pronounce that?
Modifius.
Yeah, that sounds
Modifius.
good.
All right, sounds good. Modifius has the license to Fallout, the RPG. I actually have the starter set. I got it at a ShireCon for like $10.
Another game that I love, Fallout. Play that game all the time too.
Yes, and so they get the license, and they have like a technical manual or some bullshit like that they were putting out, and apparently the author, one of the authors, went to the fan wiki and copy and pasted the fan wiki word for word as a holder, as a I will rewrite this later, and what I will spitball and say it probably happened is that time crunch was getting short. Something had to get submitted, and it was like, oh, nobody will know. Who looks at the fan wiki is going to compare that this section is
everybody does, but yes,
everybody does. Now, I guess you could say, thankfully, the fan wiki is under CC share alike, Creative Commons share alike. I don't know, version 3.0 something. But there's a problem with that. This is selective following of a license. It's like, oh shit. Well, I guess thank God it's under Creative Commons. So we have to do two things under the Creative Commons share alike. We got to give credit to the original, and we have to do share alike. So what do? They give credit and pretend they never read that second part of the license that says they got to do the share alike. Their official announcement makes no mention of but we're going to follow the requirement of giving credit. Well, yeah, it's fucking fine and all that, but then you're supposed to make your product basically Creative Commons share alike. Let others, but. I would assume that would then violate their license with the creators of Fallout.
Yep.
Wow.
That's an interesting quandary to be stuck in. So they're not really following the Creative Commons share alike license, even though they claim they are. And these licenses, by the way, don't work if you don't follow all the requirements. It isn't like you can pick and choose. Because if you could, Watsy would be fucking everybody right now and over. It's like, oh well, we gave it, we shared it under the Creative Commons, but we no, we're gonna change our Creative Commons license doesn't mean that you can share. No, that's not what you guys did. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Don't believe me. I deal with enough lawyers on a frequent enough basis, but I am not a lawyer. But to me, this really looks like they stepped in it, and
Right.
they are trying semantics to make it seem like it's not an issue. And they got
Yeah.
past editors and proofreaders and a project manager. Oh, that looks fine. It means that nobody fucking read it.
No, nobody did.
Yep.
That's
That's
exactly what it is.
it. It just shows that it's like when you see the media make some mistake or whatever. They've gotten rid of all of the people who were diligent, and everything is pushing everything to press as fast as possible.
Hmm.
Yep.
And that's one thing when you're one dude writing something on your own. It's another thing when you're an official licensee of a multi-billion-dollar property. You can't half-ass that. But
But that was, yeah,
they
that was a
did.
hack.
Yeah.
And their official announcement, which I covered earlier in the week, was um, really a CYA. But when I said, oh, but it was almost like, oh, thank God we used material that was under the Creative Commons license, share alike. So we didn't really technically do anything wrong, except that we're not going to follow the license when it comes to our actual work. We're just going to take it and use it, and then we'll pretend that no, it isn't open. No,
But I think it's just part of a larger trend of people writing for some big property who don't give a crap about the actual property, and
right.
they're shortcutting it because they're just doing it. They're not there because they love Fallout.
Yep.
They're there because
It's a paycheck.
they want to make money. They fit whatever the box is that they need. Or we're gonna need a person with this much experience and this blah blah blah. And we're gonna hire this person, and that's why we end up with mediocre crap all over the place. Whether you're talking about Star Wars and Marvel, or whether you're talking about
Well, look
Fallout
at
miniatures game, it doesn't matter. It's all over the
look,
place.
look at the state of Hollywood now. I mean, people have commented on this last few years. Everything comes out is either a sequel, a remake.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, there's very few original properties that come out of Hollywood, and we're enough so that people were when original property does come out, people get giddy. They're like, "Oh my god,
yeah,
this is actually an original script, not based on anything that came out before." I mean, I mean, I've had this happen many times when I went and saw a movie at the theater in the last few years. Look at the previews and try to count how many aren't related to another property that aren't a remake of an older property or a sequel or in a book. This is the movieization of a book or whatever. And there'll be like one maybe, sometimes not even one. Sometimes you're like, oh, these are all based on the property because
Yeah.
they're very risk adverse. Hollywood's
yeah,
risk adverse right now, but I think the problem is it's not just Hollywood's risk adverse. I think most people putting out games nowadays are risk adverse, and then they're just whatever's the easiest way to get something done, they're going to get done. They're not going to waste too much time getting it done.
Well, it
Well,
used to be that Hollywood was like, we're going to give some money to these people because they're really creative. And they might fail, and we might end up taking a
right.
bath.
Sure.
But we're going to have enough of them succeed that we end up reaping huge profits. And they used to reap huge profits. I mean, look at the 80s and 90s. They were making
Yeah.
incredible stuff. And it's totally disintegrated now. The Critical Drinker came up with this. I wish I could take credit, but that the people that are writing this stuff don't have any real life experience with adversity.
No, that's
So
true.
they aren't Hemingway, who grew up in world wars and all kinds of exciting adventures in their life. No, their most exciting adventure was going to Starbucks on
Oh,
Tuesday,
damn! I was going to
and
say the same
yeah,
thing.
and
Jesus.
Kimmy said something mean to them, and that hurt their feelings. So they're going to go home
They
and write a.
they they
Yeah,
misgendered me on my cup.
that's right. Yeah, and that's why I made a tweet today saying that I think WotC's reached like fanfic level towards TSR at this point, because they're just writing just horrible crap that I was
Yeah.
retweeted. They had tweeted that they had an adventure where you try to make the greatest mac and cheese. I am not kidding you. You know,
Well, dude, it is mac and cheese. All right.
yeah, I mean, I love mac and cheese as much as
A
the
good mac
next,
and cheese can change your
but
life,
damn,
but not in the game.
I mean, who wants to go on an adventure for mac and cheese? It's just ridiculous. Like, go out into the world and do something. Most of these people have never even left their city or state or whatever. I mean, they have no experience with real life. I mean, I'm not making this political. I'm just using it as a common example. Like George W. Bush was notorious for being uncurious about going to other countries. I mean, like, you're the president and you aren't even interested in going to other countries and learning stuff. Like, that's kind of the whole culture now. It's like, well, it used to be multicultural meant you knew something about other cultures. You'd been places. You'd done something. Now these people, they don't even know the history of the past 5 years, much less what happened 100 years ago or what's distinctive about this culture or that or whatever. It's ridiculous.
Well, if you look at YouTube, it's the channels that will inform you of world events that don't get monetized, right? So the stuff that will tell you what's going on won't get monetized, but the ones that are essentially extended TikTok videos, well, that's fine. Well, we're going to fully monetize those and push those. By the way, Kevin, in my opinion, the solution to what Hollywood and WotC are doing is what is happening. Other people creating content. It's taken a long time for the OSR to scale up, but now it produces better than Hasbro by far.
Much better. Yeah,
and there's YouTubers that produce way better informative news content than any of the news channels and any of the. They're totally producing long form, high density interviews with people that get to the heart of particular matters in a way that 60 Minutes never did. You
remember before we had social media, when you wanted to go to, like, let's say, review, like a movie review. Movie reviews were professional movie reviewers. These people that went to film school and did all this stuff, and they went and saw movies. Then you started having people just, like me or Eric or Greg, just say, "Hey, I'm going to start reviewing movies," and then all of a sudden, their reviews were more popular than the reviews than that. But what it turned out was a lot of these guys that were doing reviews for newspapers or doing these puff pieces, they were basically being paid by the movie studios to say, look, this is going to be a blockbuster. We're going to do the red carpet treatment for when you go see the movie. It's going to be free food. We're going to give you, I used to work in the music industry. And there's so much payola in there, it's not even funny. Or there used to be. Now, there's probably not anymore because there's so many ways around the payola. But it used to be payola. Right. Your stuff would get sold based on what your representatives gave the guy who ran the record store or the guy that ran a music label. Once social media came around and everybody could review it and they found out the Emperor Had No Clothes, you could say, yeah, the latest Michael Jackson album was awesome. And then you had 18 people going, no, it's not. It's absolute garbage. It's crap, it sucks. Then that's when they lost their power. When people got the power to actually say, hey, this isn't true. These people are being paid off. And I think that's why journalism failed. I mean, you have the failure of journalism, right? All these newspapers going under. Well, one of the problems is obviously immediacy. I mean, newspapers are always going to report on something the day after, but they should have the advantage in that if you do a journalistic piece the day after, it should be more informing, right? You should have lots more information because you've had 24 more hours to gather information. The problem was people found out this wasn't true. This ended up not being true. That the newspapers and stuff still covered stuff very superficially and didn't really.
Yeah. The retractions and corrections are always on like page 9. It's like
I won't cite the specific case, but there was a case because I don't want to trigger a bunch of conversations about that particular case. But there was a thing where they were talking on the different news channels and saying that this guy was a certain way. But the document that they were talking about was a publicly available document. So I just went to look at the document myself. And lo and behold, it was the opposite of what they were saying on the TV. I said, okay, what else are they telling me is the way it is? And it's the opposite of reality.
Is this the same incident where they said I don't remember whether this is MSNBC or CNN, that you should not be reading these documents. You should have us read them and tell you what you need to know.
Well,
I mean, they
I don't
literally
remember
say
that
that.
specifically,
Okay,
but they could have
I
easily said that and
I
said
I
it could
remember
be
my mouth
harmful to you if you
dropping
read
open.
these dangerous documents.
Yeah. But
Yes.
listen, when it comes to mass media, they are all paid for by big
Advertisers.
corporations, right? Whether it's
Watch the news any night, and people don't realize. So, when you let's say you watch your local news, it's 30 minutes long. So this is the format because this has succeeded for decades and decades. They'll lead with blood, right? You got to lead with blood and
yep,
guts, and we'll talk about this later. But they also what's at the very end of the broadcast? The weather and the sports, because they have done studies and polls and found out that this is the only reason people watch news is for that they want to know the scores, the sports scores, and they want to know what the weather is. That everything else is filler. And so if you notice when you're watching the stories, any story about something going on in your city is actually a commercial. If it's about a new restaurant opening, if it's about a new building, whatever, those are all commercials. They're not news stories. They are commercials. They're paid for. They're actually paid for by the people doing it. So the entire newscast, except when it comes to the sports and weather, are all commercials, except
and
for
the
the
weather's
very
never
first.
accurate anyway. So I mean, really, thank God.
You'll be
sports
shocked.
Yes,
You'll be
I
shocked
know.
when you watch your news and see what is this story about. Okay, this story's about this new drug on the market. That's cool. Oh no, that's a commercial. It's a commercial for that drug. Is what it's about.
Oh
And the
yeah,
guys,
That's right.
they're
Lou,
all
yeah.
so all the stories are
I've
commercials.
seen
They're
that.
all commercials.
I have seen them run that on certain YouTube channels where you see like literally 30 different newsrooms in order to clips all together telling you the same fucking
Same
shit.
thing.
Brought to you by Pfizer, which, by the way, I'm not saying one thing or another about the vax,
Oh, I will.
but
But don't-
there's a
we better not.
reason why this channel we don't do sponsorships, we don't do advertising or paid commercials. YouTube may hit you with that. I do affiliate links. Now, why do I do affiliate links? Because I can tell you about a product, and if you like it, you'll buy it, and I will get a few cents. But I'm not out here being paid by somebody to tell you a product is good. I can give you my personal opinions. I can actually tell you what I truthfully believe. I don't have to shill. I don't have to, or Mike. Mike would do it for liquor, but and that's the point. Um, you know, we can be honest. Our guests can be honest because nobody outside us is paying us to say something. Go on. I'm not going to mention channels. Some of them I think are very good channels, but when they are doing a commercial, sometimes you can't tell it's a commercial. But when they're doing a commercial, realize they're getting paid for it. So are they giving you opinion or are they giving you what you are supposed to hear because somebody paid them for it? You'll never have to wonder about that here. And if we have connections with people, like having Greg on, I thought I told you I've known Greg since before playtesting D&D Next. I think he does great work. That's my opinion. I tell you if we have connection to people, whether it's here on the blog or on this YouTube channel.
Look, we're going to have people on the show for the most part that we like. We don't want to spend a lot of 2 hours of somebody we don't like as a beginning.
Oh, God,
right
no.
off the bat. But we've been very honest with people before. There was a guy about a couple years ago that came on that had a Kickstarter. I don't remember who it was, Eric, but we asked him. His Kickstarter was going to fail. I mean, it was obvious.
Yeah.
We were looking at it, and we said, "Look, your Kickstarter is going to fail. How do you feel about that?" We asked him an honest question. Yeah. He's like, well, I'll retool it and I'll do this and that. And he gave us an honest answer, But we weren't sugarcoating it. We're like, oh, you need $36,000 and you're still a day away. We're like, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And so we will ask hard questions to people. It's not all puff pieces. I mean, at least I hope it's not. I mean, when I talk about something I like from somebody, I really like that. I'll like it. I'll say I really like this. If I don't like it, I'll either won't say anything. Or I will ask them questions. I'll say, well, why is this like this, or why does this happen like that? And if we had somebody from WotC on, I would be just I'd be just
rake them over the coals, man.
Please, but no, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, look, not everything about WotC is negative. We do. Eric and I know people that work at WotC, and unfortunately, the rank and file people have to suffer what the
Yeah.
upper management has to do. But there's no point in having somebody on the show if you're not going to ask them hard questions.
All right.
Um, I saw an interview the other night that apropos of really nothing of what was the actress name who paid to have her daughter in Southern Cal and got arrested for it? I can't remember the name. She's on Desperate Housewives. Oh, jeez.
Oh
She
God.
paid for her daughter. Basically, she paid for fake SAT scores.
Oh yeah,
Her
I know
kid
you're
would get
talking about.
her kid would get SoCal, which that's a pretty fucking dumb kid if they can't get into public college. But anyway, and so they did an interview on her latest show or movie, and the guy asked her one question. He said, "Well, something like about that." She said, "Well, I just did what any mother would do, but I'm not going to answer any more questions about that." And I would be just like, if I'm the interviewer, I'm like, "All right, well, see you later."
Yeah,
And I mean, what's the
how
point
would you
of
find
sitting
in prison? You know,
It's just it's just sitting there. It was a puff piece about how great her new show is, and he wasn't allowed to ask anything about. I mean, she told him. She said, "I don't want to talk about it anymore." I mean, like, well, what the fuck are you on my show? I mean, that's what everybody came here to talk. They don't want to hear about your stupid new movie. They want to hear about why on earth were you so retarded that you had to pay $50,000 to somebody for a fake SAT for a damn public California university. I mean,
but
come
it's a
on,
good
man.
university, Michael.
Not only
Come on.
that, you're rich. You could pay for them. You could
Uh,
pay for them to
you
go
could
to another
right.
college.
You
Ugh,
could just donate money, and they'll go, "Oh,
unbelievable.
yes, suddenly
Yeah.
we have an opening."
So anyway,
So
that's the kind of thing that it drives me crazy. I see stuff like that, I just laugh my head off because I'm thinking this is just something their producers set up, told them to do this interview, and they probably don't want to do it, but they have to because they work for the news studio. But it's just ridiculous. It's just dumb, and it insults your intelligence when you see stuff like that. Because we all know what that is. Come on,
yeah,
we know what's
I,
going on now.
I mean, it's funny because like I pay for YouTube premium, so I don't get ads in my when I watch. Because I watch YouTube. I don't even know why I have cable TV because I only use it to watch sports, and I could probably find cheaper ways to watch sports like over the air because I'm in New York City. So I don't even know why I pay for cable. I don't watch it. I get my news from alternative media, which I find to be a lot more honest.
I'll tell you, you could there is still some good printed journalism, but you have to look at long form magazine articles and stuff like I don't know, like Vanity Fair. Like we have a good magazine in Texas. Texas Monthly is a really good magazine. Every month there's 3 or 4 long form stories that are about anywhere from 10 to 20 pages long that cover in depth the subject, either like a I don't know a murder case or how a barbecue place started, and they are in-depth articles, and that's where I find some of the best stories now is these in-depth print articles. Now a lot of times there's a slant to it, but you got to filter the slant out. But
Yeah, it's whatever.
that's yeah. But most stuff, unfortunately, unless you're like Eric and Greg said, unless you're going to a private channel, a streaming channel, you're just going to get a 5 minute version of every story that doesn't really tell you anything, except that here's we're going to sum it up in 5 minutes. I mean, unless it's a documentary, it's not going to tell you what you need to know.
And it's also all these people are feeding off each other, so they don't want to make waves because it'll hurt their relationship with the other people.
Oh, of course.
They don't
Yeah.
want you bring up something in a meeting about how you have a idea for a great D&D module where you make the world's greatest mac and cheese, and everybody in their head might be going, "This is stupid," but they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Oh,
Let's go
that'll
ahead
sell
with that."
dozens of copies. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That
Well,
sounds
that's
like
why they
every
recycle so
frog.
much stuff.
Sounds like every Frog God Games meeting I go to. Oh wait,
Oh,
hold on. I said that out loud. Oh hey hey
whoa.
no, just kidding,
Uh,
just kidding.
all right. So let's do a giveaway. How many?
Oh,
Actually,
let's do it.
Greg, how many giveaways are we giving away?
I was thinking we could give away a Gavardia and a Shadow Sun.
I
Oh,
want all that stuff. I want it. Oh wait, I have the Shadow Sun stuff.
I'm about to say you already have Shadow Sun. All
I
right.
have Gavardia.
So Warlords or Gravaria, we'll do that one first.
All right.
All right. I'm going to start collecting. There's
Collecting names, harvesting
16
names.
names in the mix. And
Let's
if it's
start
me
with
or Mike, we gotta re-roll.
Jen, are you here? You could get something. I
No,
don't
she
think
hasn't.
Jen
She hasn't.
posted.
She
No,
went to
she hasn't
sleep.
posted. Oh well.
You know, it
She's
was
gonna lose
dinner was
out. Here we
really
go.
Thai
Oh no,
beard.
Ty
Thai
Beard.
But
beard.
hold on, I think Ty already bought it. Ty already.
I've got other stuff I can give Ty.
Yeah, I think you have.
I
think you
can
bought
give
it.
him Ambition and Avarice second edition.
Oh, very
I
great,
think
good game.
I think he bought it while he was listening to you. That's how great your pitch was.
Yes,
Yeah,
right. So, Ty, I know you know how to get in touch with me. You get in touch with me. Give me your drive-through email, and I will make sure Greg gets it.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
All right. And
go. Shadow Sun time,
Shadow
Shadow
Sun.
which is
Shadow
great. By the way, I
Sun.
have it. Unsolicited plug. Greg hasn't given me
All
any
right.
money lately.
Lately.
Oh wait, there's right. Oh no. Ah, Ryan. There you go.
All right. So Ryan, I believe you know how to reach out to me, but if there's any doubt, you can email me here. I'll put up an email if I can find it.
Okay.
I got so many banner thingies here. I gotta find it. Here we go. Tenkars.tavern@gmail.com. You know what? It could be that Ty could have wandered off, but we know he won. So
Okay.
I'll bug him later.
He probably wandered off. There's a James Bond movie on tonight. He hadn't seen it in a while.
Ryan,
He's got a lot to choose from.
email me at tenkars.tavern@gmail.com, and I will forward your drive-through info over to Greg.
Nice. Good
You
deal.
know, there we go. There, beauteous. So, no, it is certainly weird that like WotC can't find, I don't know, a new IP. Everything's recycled, right? Everything that they're putting out, even like, don't they have like the butthole of Vecna coming out or something like that?
Yeah.
See, this is what's so annoying, crazy. I don't know what Greg's going to say, but let me just say this real quick. Is it all their products now contain legacy warnings about how these were all created by old white guys and their views aren't the views we have now. Yet all they do for the last 20 years is recycle those same products, aka Tomb of Horrors, Village of Hamlet, Against the Giants, yada yada. So even though they denigrate those people that started the hobby, all they can do is republish their same works over and over and over again. They have no new ideas.
I was gonna say something similar to that, but it's totally immoral, in my opinion, to say something else is immoral, but you're still gonna sell it for money, right? Like it's horrible to have a book about chocolate. Here's my book about chocolate. Like,
but that's why people don't respect them anymore, Greg.
It's totally ridiculous.
That's absolutely why they've lost, product identity and people buying their product, because anybody that's old enough to remember what they're doing. I mean, look, if you just started playing D&D 5 years ago, maybe you don't know Tomb of Horror's rich history, and you're like, oh, this is a kind of a cool puzzle dungeon for 5e. Well, no, actually, it's written for 1e. What's 1e? Oh, it's not till you start finding out this stuff. This is why they've just been bleeding older people to the OSR, because people don't want to deal with their bullshit anymore. They're tired of this crap. And they haven't had an original idea since, what was it? Eberron, right, Eric? We figured out Eberron was
that
the
wasn't
last
even
original
their
campaign.
idea.
No,
It was Rich Baker's idea, right? I mean,
They
won
bought
the
it.
contest.
Yeah.
They bought it from Rich Baker. So I mean, they haven't had an original idea, since like Birthright. I don't know. It's been that long.
It's kind of like we're getting this point, and I have a wife who has a sensitivity to gluten that makes her just feel terrible to her stomach. So I'm not saying there aren't legit reasons for people wanting specialty food, but if you want some food that is all these different things, soy free, gluten free, sugar free, this free, that free, eventually it's going to be free of taste. Like you can't remove everything that might upset somebody and still have it be worth anything. Like it's going to be bland and boring. It's the things that are cool. if you think of what's the Spelljammer that you like, Eric, I was never a big Spelljammer guy, but I certainly have to say it is innovative and different, right? Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, no one can do that. But if you're not willing to be innovative and different because you might make somebody uncomfortable, then you can't innovate at all.
Well, you know, what's sad is, oh God, I wish I could remember the name of this. It was a third. It was a 3.0 third party setting with it was like Spelljammer, but it was all about dragons. Dragons powered everything. It was Star or whatever.
Dragon Age? No, Dragon Star.
No, Dragon Star. Thank you, Dragon Star, which was a awesome, unique idea, and then 3.5 came along, and it didn't get brought over to 3.5.
Transferred over. Yeah.
No, but I was like, wow, that was something like why couldn't Wanty be doing something like that in the 3.0, 3.5 era? Well, they had Eberron.
Well, they have a strategy of trying to destroy their previous work, and that is I can understand it at least going from second to third and saying we're kind of harmonizing things and we feel like this is kind of a better version from an organization standpoint or whatever. But you can't just keep killing your prior editions and telling people not to buy them anymore and expect to keep a coherent group of followers for your product. You know, every single time they upgrade, they murder everything behind it and say it's no longer valid. They don't support. Imagine if instead of 4th edition, they came out with D&D Tactics, and then they came out with Heroic D&D as 5th edition, whatever, and then they came out with as different product lines that they could still support, and they could move the older product lines that they don't want to pay a ton of reprint costs for it to like Black and White or some other kind of to bring the costs down so that they could print. They don't have to worry about. You don't want to print a brand new full color book.
Greg,
whatever.
They've done the same thing the comic industry did, and the comic industry absolutely destroyed itself over the past.
That's right. Yeah.
Because what they did was that they said, you know, it's great that you guys like these old superheroes. We're going to come up with these more kick-ass newer superheroes that we like. We don't care if you like them or not, that we like. And not only that, we're going to take the superheroes that you like and we're going to destroy them. You know, all the old white guys like Captain America and Thor and Iron Man, we're going to destroy those guys because that's not who we want to see as superheroes. So what we have now is, 30 years ago, we had comics with print runs of literally 1 million. They had a print run of 1 million. Nowadays, they have comics that have print runs of 15,000. Now look at those two numbers. 1 million and 15,000, because nobody over the age of 40 reads comics anymore because they've completely destroyed all the superheroes that they like to read about back in the old days. Now, do you know what the number one selling comic of the last few years has been? That it just came out this year and blew everything away for the last few years. It was absolutely a revelation to the comic studios. They can't believe this happened. So they hired one of the better comic writers, Jonathan Hickman. They asked him, like, look, we're desperate. Everything we have is failing. Every title is failing. What do you want to do? He said, I want to do Spider-Man. Okay, you could do Spider-Man. What do you want to do? Whatever I want to do. Okay, you can do whatever you want to do. We don't care. You know what he did? He did Spider-Man, who's married to Mary Jane, and they have 2 kids. It has sold better than any comic in the last 5 years. It's already gone through multiple printings. It's out of print everywhere because that's what people want to see. They wanted to see Spider-Man is grown up. He's a father. He's a husband. All the stuff they destroyed in the comics the last few years when they got him, he had to get a divorce and he's not married anymore, and they killed off his unborn daughter because he can't have kids because superheroes can't have kids, yada yada. Jonathan Hickman did all that, and now it is the most successful comic, in the last generation. Only because he told them.
Sounds like Top Gun Maverick. Yeah,
I want to do exactly what I want to do, but that's the problem.
Give people what they want. Don't preach.
Yeah. Give the people what they want. Don't give them what you want. Give them what they want, and that's the problem I think right now. Greg and Eric, is what's happening to gaming. Is that WotC is stuck in the loop of we're going to give you what we think you want or what we want, and then the OSR is sitting here going, no. We're going to give people what we think what they want, and that's why you have the success of Shadow Dark and OSE and all these other things, because that's what people want. That they may not want to play the exact same game that their grandparents played, their parents played, but they want to play something kind of like that, which is what, a lot of these retro clones are.
Right, and they want adventures written that they can use. I mean, I took creative writing one class in college, and Professor Teitel, he's got to be in his 80s now if he's still alive. He was a published author. He was really good, but he also said, he goes, listen, there's two basic ways to write: for yourself and for an audience. And if all you're looking to do is write for yourself, just sit in your chair and masturbate, because that's what you're doing.
Right.
He goes, you're the only person you're pleasing is yourself, and you'll gain nothing from it. He goes, you have to write for an audience, and you have to find a way to enjoy writing for that audience, because if you ever plan on doing anything with the written word, it's because somebody else wants to read it. If they don't want to read it, it is pointless to write it.
Yeah,
and those are words of wisdom.
Yeah, you need to ask
Joe called
question.
me a pick me the other day. Yeah, Eric, Joe's been going off on calling me a pick me because I'm writing for writing things that people want that's popular, rather than making half finished manuscripts that I save on my hard drive like Joe does.
Oh,
and yeah, boom. But like when Shadow Dark came along, I said, what is it that people are gonna want to actually have? That's why I wrote expanded class options, expanded equipment options, more magic spells. I already had spells that I'd written for Ambition and Avarice that were totally different from the D&D classic spells. I said, okay, so I'll bring in a bunch of those and let people see my ideas. They just have to be changed into the Shadow Dark system so that they can see them. And then the entire Shadow Sun writing was done in about 3 weeks. Eric knows. And it was, I had just started taking a new ADD med. And it was a very powerful medicine. Wow. And it was like just every second of my spare time was writing. And all of it was triggered by something from WotC saying, no, Dark Sun is bad, and you should feel bad for liking it, that kind of thing. And I said, well, screw you. I'm not gonna just sit around and wait for you to finally decide you're gonna start writing for Dark Sun again. They had already released some things for 4th edition. But yeah, that was it. Yeah, they weren't gonna revisit it. So I just said, let's just take it. Let's just make it different.
They weren't gonna do anything with it.
Make it different, run with it, and then let other people play it.
I've been saying for a while is that the first time in history, the people who are running D&D have never played D&D, and that's look, the people running it now are Microsoft execs, and so they're looking out there what they think people want. They're not actually consulting with what people find out what people want. They say, well, we think people want to be socially conscious and they don't like slavery. We think people think that orcs are black people. They come up with all this shit, and the thing is, nobody in the real world, if you go to conventions like GaryCon or GameHoleCon or North Texas or TotalCon, you don't find anybody that believes these things. So this is all stuff that they think that we're like. They think that we're back to being thought of as the stupid, dumb, chubby nerds who, don't know anything. And that's who they think we are now, because these are all Microsoft execs who have never played role-playing games, much less D&D.
The orc thing in particular really sticks in my craw, because it shows how absolutely idiotic these people are. Orcs travel in hordes. They wear helmets that look like what the Mongols wear. They wear laminate armor. Okay, they're clearly not black people. They're clearly Mongols. Now you could say, okay, well, it's Mongols are bad, but to not even understand the aesthetic, to look at some dude in a feather headdress and say, "Oh, that's a German," like. You don't know anything. Why are you even telling people what you think they should do? Like, you've never even read a history book. You don't know anything. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, if you follow sports, every once in a while you get a sports owner that absolutely clowns himself, because there'll be a sports owner who's just a rich guy, right? He's a billionaire, and he buys a team. Jerry Jones. And, well, no, by this time, Jerry Jones actually knows what he's doing. It's been 30 years, but even then. But they'll buy a team, and they start doing all this crazy stuff like, these are like my own personal set of baseball cards. I'm going to trade this guy over here and do this over here and sign this guy over here. And they start doing stuff, and then everybody starts laughing at that owner. I'll give an example. Snyder, the guy who ran the Redskins into the ground, was an absolute fucking moron. He had no clue what he was doing. He didn't know sports. He didn't know football. He knew nothing, and he just drove that team into the ground because he was just doing what he wanted to do without any advice, any background, because he was the richest guy there was, so I own the team. I can do whatever I want. So every once in a while in sports, you'll have this guy come along and does that, and he'll just absolutely destroy a team like Marge Schott did with the Cincinnati Reds. I mean, the same thing. Every sport has this guy.
Well, not everybody can be a Steinbrenner.
This is what we're doing right now with D&D. We have the guys that don't know anything who are sitting there just throwing money around or going, we think this is under monetized brand. Hey, let's make a D&D movie, which in the movie, wasn't bad, but I'm sure it didn't make anywhere near the money that they thought it was going to make. Now, maybe if they'd made it cost, I mean, it only made $250, so
maybe if they hadn't blown up the OGO right before the movie.
Yeah, that was not the best marketing move right there.
Yeah.
That was a terrible marketing move. But, these are the same people. These are the people who didn't know about sports buying a sports team. That's who we have who are running this company now. And you know what? If it continues to crash and burn, you know what they're going to do? They'll just sell it someday. They don't care.
Yeah.
They're all about the money. They're going to try to monetize as much as they can. But if they can't, they'll sell it to somebody. And hopefully at some point they'll sell it to somebody who knows what they're doing. But they might not. They might just sell it, piece it off, and sell it to movie studios, or God help us, they'll sell it to Disney, or even worse, God help us, to sell it to China, like Eric and I suspect that seems to be the plan, is to sell it to a Chinese company, and then
Well, I mean, the Chinese company, from reading the original article, they wanted basically the computer and console rights, and they weren't looking for tabletop rights,
right?
But of course, the article then, when it got translated to English and expanded upon, like they want D&D. By the way, Ryan, I got your email, and here I'm going to fall on the sword publicly because this is what you do. Holy shit! I just realized that I think I just saw that unshipped box in Rachel's yoga room. From OSR Christmas.
Son of a bitch!
Date 12.
Son of a bitch!
Yes, and I would like to blame it on December and January with Rach and her chemo, radiation treatment. Was a bit stressful, and the appointments after that. But that is a total ball drop on my ass. So, public sword falling. Mea culpa. And I will. I believe Friday is the next trip out, so we'll. Make sure we hit the post office. It's a two-man job.
I would never apologize.
Two-person job in New York City. I can't park at the post office, so I got to send Rach in. I got to send Rach in. So, yeah, but yeah, I just got your email. I'll give you information to Greg, but yes, and I didn't see your email. I hadn't popped into that email account over at TotalCon. So, but yes.
To build on what Mike said a second about the costume, they could have done a D&D movie on a massively reduced budget if it was just good, really good. Clerks did not have a huge budget. There's been tons of movies that were fantastic.
They spent $250 million. They could have spent $150, and you know what? They would have made $100 million probably, because that's a successful movie then. But they spent a lot of money. You could tell the movie looked good. I thought it looked good, but it was probably too much money. It was too much money to spend on that.
And it had named actors, but
it probably didn't need named actors.
But to put this into perspective, okay. There was a person that if you watch these videos, you're logged into the gaming community, right? You kind of know the comings and goings. You knew about the OGL fiasco. If you hang out on the Thursday nights in our Discord server, you know about the OGL fiasco and all the other news. Well, the person I was talking to, yeah, he knew about it from us. Never discussed it with his daughters, who happen to be 5e gamers and their 5e groups were talking about. They weren't wired in. They were talking about the OGL fiasco and the attempt to pull back the license and how it's going to affect third-party publishers. These were people that aren't involved in this shit on a daily basis, hearing about it. People in their teens and early 20s. And that's the audience that they were selling this movie to. And they, so a lot of this news doesn't go much beyond, these YouTube channels, right? This went beyond. This hit major media, this
Right.
whole change or the attempt at it.
It's just
Self-inflicted
but it just shows you how out of
wounds are the
context.
worst.
But they're out of contact. I mean, I'll give you an example. It just happened. This is just yesterday. Did you hear about the fiasco with Wendy's pricing?
Yeah.
Oh my god! And they're gonna do congestion pricing.
Who thought of that idea? And why would you release it to the public like
it works
that?
for Uber. It'll work for. But now they're saying we're not going to increase prices on our busiest time. So what? You're going to increase prices
because they got hammered. They got absolutely
no. But that means they're going to increase prices when it's slower. Well, when it's slow, we want to bring in even less people when it's slow. So if you're coming in for the 11 o'clock burger, we close at midnight. We're going to charge you double.
We're going to charge you double. Okay, well, I'm going across the street, Jack in the Box. Oh, we never thought about that. Wait a second. There's other fast food restaurants? Yeah, there are. There are a lot of other fast food restaurants. You morons. That aren't doing tiered pricing. Who else got hammered this year was McDonald's. McDonald's jacked up the prices. And I just saw the latest earnings report of McDonald's. Guess what? Because people now instead of paying $1 for a drink, they're paying $2.50 instead of I don't know, $5 for a Big Mac. I mean, they jacked their prices up because for whatever reason.
But Mike, I saw a video on that too. But there's a little secret about McDonald's that doesn't really get out there that often. McDonald's is not a fast food chain. You know what they are? Mm-hmm. They are a real estate.
Marketing?
That's right.
No,
they're a real estate company.
Yeah,
they own most of the property that they then lease out to their franchisees. So they're getting money from the franchise fee and for the property that they are charging an exorbitant rent for. So it doesn't matter if their franchisees have to increase prices or take a cut. As long as they're getting their money, they don't give a shit.
No, you're probably absolutely right. I mean, I don't eat at McDonald's anymore because it sucks. But I mean, I understand that. That makes sense. I mean, people. But the thing was, the fast food, what that is that's somewhere for the single mom who has to get dinner for her 3 kids on the way home. She could roll in there, get a 40-piece nuggets and 3, hamburgers. Yes, they have 40-piece nuggets.
40 pieces of chicken scrap.
40-piece nuggets, man. And the thing is, now it's not. What's the point? That it's not worth her time and effort. I mean, there's fast food places that are cheaper. You just instead of McDonald's, you go to Burger King or you go to Jack in the Box. I mean,
it was weird because for about 2 years, I would go on Uber and I would go to my local McDonald's and they had a triple cheeseburger meal for $7.99, and everything else was over like 10, 12, 13 bucks.
Right.
And I was like, wow. And then I went there. And I looked at it 2 months ago, and that $7.99 is now $13.
Because just trying to get you hooked, baby.
Well, I think what it is that there was one item you could only find it at my local McDonald's. I think there was one item, one meal that somebody screwed up with for 2 years and never increased the price on, and they went, oh shit. And I
was going to say there was like a lawsuit because for many years all the McDonald's around here had large drinks for $1, and I saw a video on it once. It was a loss leader. It was just something to get you. Oh, I want to go get a diet. My wife and I would go buy a lot, just get a Diet Coke each, and we were there. You know what? We might get a pie, or we might get we go through the drive-thru. Maybe we get a sundae or something. Well, then they decided I think it was last year or after it was after COVID. We're not going to do that anymore. Now drinks are like $2.75. We don't go by there anymore. There's no point. That's the whole point we got in there was just to buy the $1 sodas. Well, if I want a dollar soda, I'll just go to the local QT or something and buy a bottle. I mean, I'm not going to spend that much money on a fountain drink.
And the fountain drink costs them next to nothing anyway.
Nothing. That's all. It's absolutely pure profit.
Anybody who's ever worked in an industry where they sell cups, big large cups with soda in it, knows that the manager tracks the cups because that's the most expensive part of the sale. The actual cup costs more than the drink in the cup.
That's why it's
fun facts from working retail.
It's just stupid to raise the price on stuff like that. It just doesn't make any sense at all. It's just an absolute money grab when you do things.
I worked at a movie theater when I was a teenager, and man, they counted all those cups.
How many mice did you find in your popcorn?
I was consistently amazed that people bought hot dogs and nachos from there. I mean, don't. I don't want to gross you out, folks, but don't do it.
Well, I will say, so all the movie theaters where I'm at now, because I'm in the burbs, they all offer full-service restaurants on the premises now, so I don't have to worry about the debatable, frightening, movie hot dog and or nachos. You actually have a menu you order off of, and they bring the food to your seat like it should be. Like it should be, damn it.
Like it should be. Like
yeah.
That's not a $10 theater though. Sorry.
No, and here's what's crazy. I think what's crazy is when I was telling you about this years ago, you were telling me that nobody in New York does that because the real estate's too expensive. They can't redo the theaters because what they did here in the old Dustworth area is they tore all the old theaters down. You cannot go to a movie theater now in DFW and not have a giant reclining seat with a button you push and they bring you a menu and you order food and drinks or whatever. If you don't have that, you're out of business. You're in the DFW area. You're absolutely out of business. Yet I bet you guys don't have those. Still don't have.
Well, we have stadium seating, but we don't have food or we don't have like was it the Alamo? Whatever you guys got?
Alamo Draft House. Yeah, we have all those. That's all the theaters are. That's all the theaters are here. We don't have anything. We don't have anything where you just sit in a little metal seat and you're like this and you have to go get your. There's nothing like that anymore because they've all had to upgrade to as a competitive edge against everybody else. So I always thought that was wild when you told me that, but then I talked to some other friends that live in the Northeast and they're like, no, you can't. There's no room to put anything anymore. You can't. You have to tear down an existing structure to put a new theater in.
There are theaters, and this happened years ago. My local theater, which is no longer a theater, it's a landmark, so it's a church.
Oh dear.
It still says the Elmwood on it, but it also says the Rock Church. They had to leave the marquee and the sign up on top because it's a landmark. But when I was growing up, it went from a single screen to 2 screens to 4 screens. Same space, more.
Just shrunk the screens down smaller and smaller.
Like the Midway Theater, which used to be 2 screens, it was a bigger theater, is now 7. I mean, when they make that many screens out of a theater that only had 2, you're not getting like these huge screens that I could sit in the first row and not crane my neck as much as it used to be if you sat in the first row of a theater and you were like, I still can't see the top, So it's changed, but holy crap!
I don't know where we were going with that. We were going somewhere with that. I can't remember,
we're almost at 2.5 hours.
It's because we have Greg on. He's
of course
fun to talk to.
Usually
we're sitting there going, God, when is this guy going to stop talking? We need to get off the show. But no, Greg's interesting, so we have to talk.
He's a good egg. He's a good guy.
But he agrees with it, and he agrees with us that Watsy sucks. So we got to have people like that on.
Listen, I don't think we've had a guest on that doesn't agree that Watsy sucks.
That's true. we have not had a good defense.
Can I please get the who's the Watsy defender? Who's the Watsy apologist? I want the Watsy apologist.
I'd like to debate you guys on Watsy. I think they're doing a great job. And
they have great new material. The Radiant Citadel is awesome.
The Radiant Citadel's a new, innovative totalitarian government location for you to venture in.
From the moment that D&D was created, I sat there and I said, "What if it'd be like to play a barista?" And then finally Strixhaven did it for me. So don't you dare say bad things about their products, because that's all I've ever wanted to do.
You made my coffee came too hot and it burned me for 2x.
So my coffee has a dragon wing in it. Where did the dragon wing come from? It's an adventure. Let's go, guys.
No, everybody, let's go into the coffee machine.
Oh, God. Yeah, Mark says, get Garibay. Thank you, sir. That is the quote of the night.
Oh, yeah, Garibay would.
Oh, God.
If you're not playing 5e at least 51% of the time, you're the problem.
Wasn't he the guy that said that you should need to quit playing old games because it only helps us if WotC sells more product or something? I can't remember.
Yes.
It's so ridiculous. Oh, it was so funny. That guy's he's a hoot. He's a hoot.
Yeah. For those that don't know, the Radiant Citadel truly is like a North Korea level totalitarian state. If you read the product, it is insane.
Wait, but nobody's meant to read that.
They use read detect thoughts and similar type spells to find anyone who thinks the wrong things and wipe them out. Oh my God!
What was the game that
truly terrifying?
What was the game that Green Ronin came out with? There was no bad guys really because everybody. Oh, it was Blue something. What was it called? Blue
Rose.
Blue Rose. It's the worst game ever because there's no bad guys and then everybody's thought controlled and and then it was the funniest thing was that what's his name? Oh, Uruguay guy decided to play it as a pundit decided to play it as they're all evil, which they are. If you read between the lines, it's an evil society. And he said it was the best game he ever ran because they created such a horrible, totalitarian, evil society that was masquerading as we're here to help you, and it's all good stuff, and you need to reason out everything. Yet you were always having your mind read and your thoughts controlled.
That's the future, man. Oh, and Marcelo, until I get my copy of Far West in my grubby fucking hands and my print of my I don't know what the hell it is, my right-handed avatar, I am impressed that somebody came along and was like, sure, we'll put out the money to put this in print. I still until I can hold it and be sure that Anthrax
Eric, I do have one request. I really want, when you get Far West, to have Feltothraxis
oh my God
do the review because his review of Vornheim is legendary. Okay, I mean it is the best RPG review I've ever seen. Feltothraxis just brings it home. I feel like
I still have that puppet. Oh my God!
you gotta review
Feltothraxis. What is this Vornheim? They say it's a good book, but I don't understand it. Bink. See, I have to do that in the Poconos on the back porch.
Yes,
Oh my God!
Right.
Far West is a bigger book. It might actually get damaged. Not like I'm going to use it, but I mean,
at this point, nobody's using it. It's just nobody's. Oh, let's play the old West Wuxia style. No, nobody says that the last 10 years. That was 10 years ago. Nobody's doing that anymore. So.
Oh, it's multimedia. It's Web 2.0. I'm sorry. I think we're at Web 3.0 now, which is attempts to monetize everything. Oh, I didn't even talk about there's an RPG that was. This was was it Everyday Heroes or whatever the heck it was, the one that crapped out from Evil Genius Games. They wanted to they wanted to sell you tokens, so your magic item in the game was unique to you because you bought it.
Nice, that's a great idea.
They should talk to the Fallout 76 people for tips on monetization.
Hey, Howard,
I
I'm
know
going
that
to,
gets up at your business.
I'm going
Mike.
to, I'm going to admit to something here. I played Fallout 76 for 5 years, so
I know.
still,
I know.
I still, because it's my grandson. It's our game. It's my grandson and I. We started playing it January of 2019 when it first came out, and that was our bonding thing. And to this day, we'll log on and still he's 19 now. We'll still log on and fire up our characters, our 7th to 800th level characters. But I never paid for anything in that stupid game. I wouldn't. You're stupid if you pay for stuff in the game. All they do is give you like costumes and a better hideout or stuff. I mean, that's just dumb. People that the same thing with Fortnite and all those games where you're paying for just tchotchkes. I mean, you know.
I don't want
tchotchkes. You get a hat with a beanie propeller on it. That's awesome. It's gonna cost you $5. I mean, you know, that's. People
but you got it in real life, it costs you 10. You're saving money.
Well, that's what Watsy's counting on. Watsy's crossing their fingers.
Oh my God!
Hoping everybody does that in the next few years because that's where they're going to be making their money. So,
Eric Eldred's asking about a Ruth Bader Ginsburg RPG.
I
was unaware that this existed. I would like to learn more.
All right, I'm looking up right now.
I don't know
plot
what you would.
line. Oh my God! Yeah,
wait,
there it
there
is.
is one? Oh my God! No, Mike. Mike, there is one.
Oh no, certainly not.
No, I don't.
No, it's just a funny article joking around. Okay.
Oh.
Ooh, I thought it was real. It was the Ruth Bader Ginsburg RPG in a time of RTG. It's basically. RPG, it meant rocket propelled grenade, not RPG.
Okay. You got me scared there for a second. Don't do that to me.
It scared me for a second. I'm trying to figure out what you're doing there, you know. So yeah.
You know, it's like try not to die before abortion gets voted on. I mean, that's really what it
there's a apparently there's a
It's a horrible game.
Yeah,
try
apparently
not to die.
God. Yeah, don't die before
me? What? Nah, not me. Oh God! All right, folks, I'm getting. I'm getting.
Do you realize we have as many people on here now as we had the whole show? These people have stayed with us for over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's got to be ridiculous. Got to be Greg's.
We're winners, man.
He didn't even show his face. Look how famous he is. He didn't even show his face, and he gets this kind of viewership.
He showed his face, just doesn't move. I mean,
that is Greg. My actual face.
Yes, I've met Greg in real life.
That's a photograph of me that I converted into that.
When are you coming to North Texas, Greg? Joe made the pilgrimage. Now it's your turn.
I can't do it this year. I've had some family stuff this year, but it's on my list.
It's a great marketing opportunity, and you can schmooze. It's a great schmooze. Mike Merles is coming this year. Maybe you and Mike can create a new company now that he got fired.
I can't come this year, but yeah. But Mike, I don't want to say anything mean to an individual, so I'll just let that roll. But he's standing in the shadow that I don't know how he can get out of. That's a nice way of saying it.
He's been pretty. I'll tell you what, he's been pretty snarky about Watsy lately. He's not going gentle into that good night. He has not been. Oh, I really enjoyed my time there and I had a great time and it's all people there I love and I'm not going to say anything bad about him. He's been kind of snarky.
Well, when you're in the party, everything's nice. When you go to the gulag is when you really open up about things.
Oh wait! I'm going up against the wall. Why am I going up against the wall? No! Not me against the wall. It's the other guys against the wall. No.
First, you remove me from my position as head of D&D. Then you give me do-nothing position in Watsy, and now I get gulagged?
He's gonna look. He'll land on his feet. He's got projects. I know some behind the scenes stuff. He's got stuff coming. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
I heard from Kyle Brink that people like him can't get out of the hobby fast enough.
Well, look, he put his money where his mouth is. He put his money where his mouth is because he got rid of a bunch of white guys, just not himself. I mean, he's essential, Because you know what? Because some animals are more equal than other animals.
That's
as the greatest work of 20th century literature says, some animals are more equal than other animals. So
that was actually the first like non-Curious George type book that I read to my kids when they were really young, and it has been a very good kind of vaccine against bad, stupid thinking.
I reread
it's
it
a great
recently.
book.
Yeah, I reread it when my grandson had to do a report on it in high school, and I hadn't read it for a while, and I was just amazed what an absolute brilliant piece of literature that it was. Enough so that my grandson, who at the time was like 16, was like, "Papa, this is really good, isn't it?" He goes, yeah, that's a really great book. I mean, he could even see all the, he could see everything in there. He's like, "Wow, this is really great stuff." I said, "I know a book that's just as essential and meaningful 100 years ago as now is a very well written book." That's why Brave New World, to me, is another book like that. It's very much. You could read Brave New World now and go, "Wow, this is pretty prescient. This is pretty much going on."
It's
Right
not a
now.
Brave New World. It is.
Yeah, exactly. We're
It
in
is
the,
today.
oh darn it, we're here. We're in the
Who
Brave
would
New
have
World.
guessed that Demolition Man would be the most predictive science fiction of all time?
Oh God.
It's
All right,
true
so-
though.
so-
It's true.
It's true.
Wait. I'm gonna break the internet right now. All right. So, and yeah, there are people that heads are gonna explode right now, but
Sure.
Wenger is having a sale tomorrow on all of his print Schald books, $20 for the print book. These aren't drive-through. These are professionally printed. I think $5 shipping. I don't know if that means you can order each one in the series and get them for $5 shipping.
Oh boy.
Say what you will about Wenger. He's a shock jock. He likes negative attention as much as he likes positive attention.
We've all
He has
said
some
that, yeah.
he has some really good OSR material. So just throwing it out there, letting you all know.
Very tongue in cheek though. Don't expect it to be too super serious. It's got
No.
some. It's somewhat satirical also. So.
Yeah. So just throwing it out there. Other than that, thank you, Greg, for coming on tonight. This was
Yeah,
awesome.
thanks, Greg. It was great. We had a great time.
Yeah,
That was fun.
Don't forget to celebrate Leap Day with Leap Day Williams tomorrow.
Ooh.
Oh, celebrate it with Wenger or.
Leap Day Williams.
Oh, there is
Okay.
there's an extra cat in here. All right, let me take care of this, folks. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for staying with us. This is a long show. Nobody's gonna watch this ever again.
Oh, God help us.
Mm.